Live from the Donatorium, it's another episode of The Fat Minute, or as I like to call it, Don John and Friend. Joined tonight by my co-host, he is the Eggman, BVJ.
Hello.
Also joined by our original guest, he has come back tonight. He is the Walrus, Trevor Klein.
I'm so glad you consider me friend.
He assumed it was him.
And I'm, of course, Don John, Goo Goo Gajoob. So first, before we get started tonight, I got some promotions to do. First off, if you guys have noticed, anybody following us on social media or seen it for the first time now, might notice our new title card, our new artwork. Shout out to my good friend Tate Griffin for doing that for us. Seriously, follow him on Twitter at Tate Griffin Comedy. He's a hilarious guy, and he's a great artist, and you can hire him to do any commissions that you might want. So definitely follow him on Twitter. And Tate and I will also be performing at some comedy shows next weekend. We got one Friday, October 23rd at 7:30 p.m. at the Indy on Main Art House in Kaiser, West Virginia. And that is 15 North Main Street in Kaiser, West Virginia. And then the day after, Saturday, October 24th, 8 p.m. in the downstairs comedy room of C&O Taco at 43 South Potomac Street in Hagerstown, Maryland. Tickets for both shows are $10 and can be reserved by calling 301-697-1909. So now I got that out of the way. How are you boys doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, can't complain too much.
Well, that's good to hear.
I mean, I'm no Garfield, but it is Monday.
Well, get yourself a heaping plate of lasagna and tuck in because we got a big show tonight.
Woo!
Since I'm doing this on my MacBook, it's just showing like your current Facebook profile pictures when you speak. They like kind of wiggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just imagining this whole time Donnie's doing this entire show from that brown chair in his robe, and then Trevor is just in that same pose with his hand on his chin next to his cat.
Essentially.
So I love it.
Blake, we've only been in this call less than 10 minutes, and that's about the 17th time you've mentioned your MacBook.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We'll forgive you this time. But let's go ahead and jump into it because we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, and I've been looking forward to this show. There's a lot of fun stuff on here. We're going to start with some cultural topics. Start off with a fun one, the launch of the iPhone. Now, I am not an Apple fan. I've never owned an iPhone. But, I mean, you have to give respect to the iPhone and for what it did for, just technology in general, not just smartphones. And, I mean, the iPhone was not the first smartphone, but it was the most important. I mean, it became quickly just a cultural phenomenon. I worked at AT&T a few years ago, and I just remember, iPhone Day being like an early Christmas. We would have people just lined up outside waiting to get the new iPhone. So what do you guys got to say about the launch of the iPhone?
Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, thanks. Back in those days, my logic was I was an iPod Touch fan. I couldn't invest myself in the iPhone, but I miss those early days of just being obsessed with apps and downloading every trash app you could
my
find.
God, yeah. Remember the
hundreds.
one app that would turn your phone into a quote unquote heating pad and it caused people's phones to melt?
Yep. There was that one. There's ones that would turn the flashlight into a strobe light. All sorts of wacky stuff, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I was never too big of an Apple guy, but I mean, it really kind of set the path for a lot of the stuff I do use today.
Right.
I mean,
I was never an Apple fan, but I was a huge Steve Jobs fan, and in my opinion, the best parts of the company died with him.
That's fair.
Blake?
Well, I am on a MacBook right now.
18.
But yeah, I mean, I remember that was a big deal. That was such a, the commercials for it. I don't know if we ever talked about it when we were talking about the iPod, but just how, I guess, nostalgic now those commercials were, where it was the shadows dancing with a colored background or whatever. And I like how you bring up the iPod Touch, Trevor. I just remember for the longest time, it really irked you that I simply referred to it as the iTouch.
That's not the official name.
That really bothered you. But yeah, I mean, it was a good. Well, I guess it was exactly a decade before I finally owned an iPhone. I got one in 2017. My first smartphone was the LG G3, which, coming from a family that, are Apple fans, especially my sister and brother-in-law, people always ask, like, oh, well, I guess you were desperate, or you settled for it, or you regret it. And I'm like, no, not, I mean, That
was a hell of a phone. I had the same phone.
Yeah, the contrary. I do not regret it at all. Like, I was very satisfied with it. I thought it was a nice phone. It was a good phone. I never hear about the G's anymore. I don't know what it's on now at this point. But
I have one.
They're on V's, aren't they?
Yeah,
now?
I got the newest one. It's the V60, and it's fucking amazing. I can go the battery life.
60 now. I'm still using a 30.
My last one was the 20, and the 20 I was not a fan of, but the 60 is amazing. Like, the battery life, I can go almost 3 days without charging my phone if I have it at 100%.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just I'm back to the iPhone though.
Yeah.
I remember all the trash apps. I remember Trevor when it came out at the same time. I know we're talking about your iPod Touch, but it was still with the time. You got the Dark Knight Batmobile game. Which,
oh my God.
They must have taken that off, because I tried to download it just to have it, and I can't find it. I don't know where it is anymore. And then there were those gun apps where it made the noise, the authentic quote noise of every gun.
There were so many soundboard apps.
Yeah, soundboard apps. And then there was the one where it was you're cracking open a can of beer and the screen is the liquid, and as you tilt it towards your face, the liquid disappears or whatever. Just a lot of basically worthless stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It was.
And we downloaded all of it.
Oh yeah.
It was basically like having an entire novelty gift shop in your pocket. But yeah, no, that was. I just remember the craze over it, and then how much were they at the time? I just assumed they were too expensive for me, but
I will look it up.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
You can tell who's has a phone or a computer at the ready on this episode.
The price was $499 for the 4 gig model and $599 for the 8 gig model.
Jeez, Pete.
Nowadays, a new iPhone is close to, if not a grand, give or take, a couple $100.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, but at least you have more than a few gigs on it.
Yeah, it's still way too damn much for a fucking phone that is designed to fail within a year and a half, 2 years. Because that has been proven that Apple, when they release the new iOSs, it fucks with the old one.
I mean, yeah, that's why my iPad Mini number 2, I got it in 2014, but that's why it's slow as shit right now. I mean, yes, it's 6 years old, but also it's I'm trying to download new games on it. Apparently Annapurna has a few fun mobile games, and it's this game is not what is it called?
Compatible. Compatible.
Compatible. I was trying to say supported. My bad, but still the same thing.
Yeah.
Not supported for this iPad, and it's oh, I guess I got to download the new software, and it's you cannot download the new software, and it's but why?
I thought you were gonna say, I guess I got to download the new iPad.
I mean, I guess I'll get a new iPad eventually. Especially since mine literally now is obsolete.
Yeah.
But no, it was my buddy for a good 6 years. I like how I turned this topic into talking about almost anything other than the iPhone.
Do you remember what the original smartphone was like?
What, the BlackBerry?
No, it was before that. It was something made by, I believe, IBM. It was it was legit a fucking brick. It was huge. and it had a huge fucking touchscreen, and like the data plan on it was outrageously expensive.
I mean, yeah, like you could only really get it if you were like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Basically, I think it came out in like the early or mid '90s. I forget what it was called. I think it was made by IBM, but I could be wrong. But it was a fucking brick. You could like it would probably be like a murder weapon in a modern version of Clue.
Fair enough.
You're making me think of that one Simpsons bit where Skinner pulls out his cell phone and he goes, "It's completely cordless, except this one."
Yeah. But let's move on to our next cultural topic, a silly one, the Boston Moonanite Panic. Back in 2007, in a couple cities in Massachusetts, a few LED placards that had like characters from like an upcoming episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I believe, were placed around.
For the movie.
What's that?
It was for the movie.
That's right. It was the
characters were in the show already, but it was for the movie.
That's right. Thank you. But yeah, basically some LED placards depicting the characters from the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie were placed around Boston, and the police department and the fire department thought they were like improvised explosive devices, and everybody went into a huge panic, except for the people who actually watched TV. It was so funny. I remember seeing the news reporting on it, and I remember seeing the police department in Boston and the fire department in Boston just be like, we don't know what these things are. They just came out of nowhere. So, we're just, we're just investigating it, and we're just, being cautious. And I just remember, like, even me, who didn't even watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force at all, was like, those are just signs. And I just remember, like, everybody just shaking their heads and laughing at this whole jumping the gun incident. Trevor, you're a fan of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I feel like you're gonna have some fun stuff to say about this.
Well, that and coincidentally, I actually just saw some like extra detail on how this all went down like last week. I caught something on YouTube about it, but yeah, they had shut down the entire city of Boston for like the majority of like daytime working hours that day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, those signs had been there for like, I don't think it was a week. It was like some days before that. And the only reason the police and fire department and everything came across them is because someone saw one and called them up.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? I mean, you think it's an explosive and like,
yeah,
you didn't notice it until then? But yeah, I don't know. Like, in a way, it was a weird kind of early viral marketing attempt, and I could see why there could be some confusion. But at the same time, they're pretty obviously small electronic signs.
Yeah,
I mean, but it blows me away that it became that heated and that big of a deal that day, when the only reason they noticed it's because someone reported one.
Yeah, and it's like, wouldn't you think? Because a few of them were hung on or near businesses, weren't they? Like so you would think.
Yeah, they had they hired a couple of like street artists.
Yeah.
To put them up, and I mean it's similar to graffiti. You're going to see them in the same general areas.
Right.
But yeah.
You would think the police department would have been like, hey, maybe we should call this business and be like, do you know anything about this? Did you see anybody put this? Did you give permission to somebody put this up here?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there was one of them that was kind of in a sketchy location. It was like in an underpass or whatever. I mean, I'll give that to him. It was in a weird spot, but still. I mean, it just looked like two Atari characters.
And they did them in, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 major cities, and it only blew up, no pun intended, in like 2 of them, Boston and somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that because of it, there is a college humor video that has now aged very poorly because of it. Because I remember after that came out, there was a skit, College Humor did, where it was like all the terrorists huddled together and they were like, where should we attack next? Who should we attack next? And we're like, oh, I know who we'll do it to. We'll do it to Boston. Nobody will ever see that coming. And it's like I want every Joe Schmo in a Red Sox cap to And basically the entire punchline of the video is no one would ever attack Boston. Nothing ever happens in Boston. There's never going to be an explosive or terrorist attack in Boston. And like that aged so fucking bad now.
Woof.
So yeah. So I mean, it's kind of weird because in a weird way, other than being like, yes, they're fucking cartoon characters, but in a weird way, the paranoid people at the time were kind of, I guess they were kind of, what's the word, where they were kind of like, well, see, I had a point, like, it could have happened here, like,
yeah,
they were really matter of fact about it.
Yeah,
I guess they were kind of not vilified, but shit, I'm having trouble coming up with words tonight.
I mean, it's pretty early.
Yeah, verified or something, I don't know. Validated. That's what I wanted to say. Validated.
There you go.
They were like, I guess, retroactively validated because, like, well, it could have happened here then, because it eventually did.
Yeah.
One thing a lot of people don't realize is after this all happened, they were actually planning, or they pretty much completed an episode of the show that was parodying the whole situation. And Turner actually pulled it because by that point it had kind of blown over and they didn't want to make a bigger deal about it.
They didn't want him poking the bear.
Right.
Yeah.
But like 90% finished copies of the episode have kind of popped up online over the years, which is pretty entertaining.
Kind of in the same vein as that Dexter's Laboratory episode where he and Dee Dee are like cussing the entire time.
Which, ironically, Adult Swim did release. So.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in a weird way, thanks to that scare, that was the most mainstream commercial time that that movie ever got.
Yeah.
Well, between that and the April Fool's prank that year, that was that movie had some wild promotions for the small budget that was put into it. Like. It's kind of off topic, but I don't know if you guys know, but April Fool's that year, they were like, we're showing the whole movie before it comes out on the actual network. And they showed the first 3 minutes, and then very quickly the screen shrunk to the size of like the logo bug and went into one of the corners. And they just went back to normal programming. But the movie, if you were looking really close, they played the entire movie in a tiny little square in the bottom left corner of the screen.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. That's great. Bonus points for that.
Absolutely.
The boss moves in American history.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to our next cultural subject, a bit more of a serious one, the Virginia Tech shooting. Now, of course, this is still the deadliest school shooting in the history of this country. I mean, it was less than a decade after Columbine. And I remember, other than the obvious things that happened after a tragedy like this, especially back then when, we didn't have school shootings on an almost daily basis, I remember this was the beginning of like the modern age of talks about gun control and mental illness and just stuff like that. Because I remember everybody being like, well, because of shit like this is why we need stricter gun control laws. And then the counterpoint being, well, the kid was obviously fucking insane and, was crazy. And then the counterpoint to that counterpoint being, well, that's the reason why we need to have stricter gun laws. Just starting the endless cycle of that is still going on today. Blake, what do you got to say?
It was just a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I, with all due respect, one memory about that time period that comes to mind was right before that. Literally, the only thing that the news kept talking about, I guess, as far as cultural events, was the death of Anna Nicole Smith. Mm-hmm. That was talked about for like over a month and a half, and that was literally the thing that finally like pushed that off the table. Been like, all right, now there is something else to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I guess, really the thing I want to comment on is the contrast of then versus 10 years later, because when that happened, that was it like was such a shock. It blew everyone's minds. And then sadly, like 10 years after that, it almost felt like there was a school shooting like once a month. And we had just grown so numb to it, you know?
Yeah.
Became desensitized by it.
Yeah, desensitized. And I think, you know, us specifically, we tried to, you know, keep up a decent job at like being like, no, this still should not be normal. Shouldn't feel normal. But I mean, yeah, it really, it just, there was almost a numbing of it over time. And just that, I mean, every time someone tries to talk about it, it's always like, well, you know, the Second Amendment, and you don't want, you know, law-abiding citizens to have guns, and it's like, you know, I don't have a problem with, you know, an average person owning a hunting rifle or whatever, but I don't want like the guy who walks around, you know, the campus or downtown, you know, with having violent thoughts and talking to somebody who isn't there, being able to own a machine gun. Like, there's a difference. You know, I don't know. For me, and I guess this is a good thing for me. It'll never be an easy thing to talk about.
Right.
So, but go ahead, Trevor.
Well, I mean, you kind of hit a lot of my big thoughts, but yeah, I mean, I definitely remember this being like one of the first incidents of its kind in the modern, the modern era that I can actually remember back to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird looking back, because even then, there was a level of, oh, that'll never happen like around here, like, you know, happen at like my school or university.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy in just such a short amount of time how much more seriously those things are taken.
Right.
Like, I remember, I really don't remember any sort of like lockdown drills back in like elementary or middle school.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely remember in high school maybe a couple a year, but it still wasn't like something you absolutely took seriously.
Well, there were even a few bomb threats at our high school.
Right.
That's true.
And,
yeah, I remember.
And every time I remember all of us just sitting there thinking, like, is this some kid being an asshole?
And it was.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, you know, you can't take that route. You know,
the one time you don't take it seriously
is the one time it is serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to keep it up, though. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird to kind of look back on it and how much has changed since then. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then how much not enough has changed too.
Right. I mean,
Definitely.
in some ways, it's gotten worse. I mean, the more time goes on.
Yeah, don't think I mean how much has changed in a positive light.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, you know what? At least back then, you know, there wasn't a you know, I guess the critics for it and the kids who survived it, they didn't have to be roasted by, you know, a right-wing network, as opposed to like when the Parkland kids were like, yeah, this really shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, you had Laura Ingraham and, you know, them talk shit on them, basically mocking survivors of the school shooting.
Or being accused of being actors, like the Sandy Hook shooting.
Exactly. Well, then I remember a big thing was, you know, just Laura Ingraham thought it was relevant to bring up how David Hogg didn't get into a good enough school, in her opinion. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Right. It's like the more time that has passed, the more insane that I've come to realize our gun laws are here. Like, there are far too many loopholes. And it's like the one thing that, like, we don't do anything about. Like, when 9/11 happened, we made stricter airline control laws. We passed more regulations to make it harder to get onto an airline or to smuggle things onto an airline that you shouldn't have on an airline.
Right.
When people started dying from car wrecks back in like the 20s and 30s when the car was first invented, we made laws and made it so you have to have a license to drive a car.
Yeah.
But we don't do shit like that with guns, and that's the problem. And, everybody, oh, well, guns kill more people, alcohol kills more people. Yes, they may, but we do things to curtail that as much as possible.
Yeah.
We don't do anything about guns because it is a quote-unquote right. And you know what? Fuck the Second Amendment. A gun is made specifically to maim and to kill. That is its only intended purpose. It needs to be treated differently and harshly. Period.
Well, then,
that is your hot take of the night.
Yeah. Fuck Christopher Columbus.
But yeah, I mean, like, adding to your point, like, after 9/11, you couldn't even take a pair of tweezers on an airplane.
Right.
And it's just like there was a comedian at the time who was like, "Hey, I'll tell you what, you worry about the guy who's bringing on an actual weapon. I'll handle the guy with the tweezers." But yeah, and shit, yeah, that's all I got.
And it's so many of these defenses you find for it. It's just like I don't even know how to articulate it.
They're
they're
paper thin at best.
Right. I mean, a lot of these things, it's like, what would it harm if we did enforce things a little bit better?
Yeah.
Well, once again, like, if you want to have, like, a pistol or, a hunting rifle, but it's like, back in the day, back when the Second Amendment was written, a normal person couldn't own a cannon. Like, that wasn't allowed.
Yeah. And
it's like, that would be, like, the closest equivalent to, like, these high-powered, fast machine guns.
Yeah.
But
I mean, fuck the quote unquote Wild West had stricter gun laws than a lot of places do today.
Yeah,
I like to imagine there was a gun activist back then that was just toting around his personal cannon. You want to take this from me?
and then
you're gonna get blown away.
Yeah.
Just give me 5 minutes to get the ball in, pack the powder, light the fuse.
Come on.
They're coming to get it.
It usually doesn't take this long, I swear.
I'm still waiting for Barack Obama to take our guns away.
I know, what a fucking slacker.
It's coming.
He's really going to do it this time.
Yeah.
I promise. Well, let's move on to our next cultural topic, the Writers Guild strike. So in 2007, let's see, how many was it? All 12,000 film and television screenwriters of American labor unions, the Writers Guild of America, went on strike to negotiate higher pay. And the result was that, like, pretty much every network had to halt production on all of their programs for the most part. And this went on from November of 2007 to February of 2008. And I just remember it always being in the news, being like, when are the writers going to go back to work? When is our precious TV going to go back to, being normal? And it was also just kind of fun watching networks try to, like, jump around and do what they could to cope with it during this time. What do you guys say, Trevor?
Could you imagine your favorite shows getting delayed for like 4 months?
I know, what a fucking
it's
nightmare.
Insane. Like these days, I don't know. Yeah, I don't particularly remember the writers' strike all that well. I do remember a lot of strange attempts of making up for it in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That's the first case I can remember. It was like things people really anticipated were like getting delayed back to back to back, and it just kept getting stretched out further. And then I mean, there were programs that still went on. I guess people weren't involved with the writers' guilds,
or they just had enough episodes saved up before the strike.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, I really don't think I was too big into television at that time, like to a point where a lot of things I regularly watched were being affected, but it was strange nonetheless.
Right. Well, then there was also, I'm sure there were plenty of shows that just never recovered from it. I would hate to be like one of the people that were working on a show that was getting ready to come out and eventually just got canceled because of all that mess. Like,
there was one show that really got. I'm trying to remember which one it was. There was a show that really got hurt by it, and they even had to be brought back. I don't know if it was And it wasn't Arrested Development because that was just canceled because it was canceled. But
That was before then too.
Yeah.
yeah, that
Was
before
it
that.
was it Heroes?
It
Yeah,
might
I feel
have.
like Heroes got affected by
Actually,
might
yes.
have been-
Somebody in the chat on our Twitch stream right now just said yes. Heroes never recovered from it. So thank you to Jack7 for that.
it. Oh, nice.
Nice.
Thank you, viewer.
No, that's actually. I'm really. Oh man, I'm in a good mood now.
Guys, that was just me. That was.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, then also, yeah, because at first I wanted to say was it Community, but Community hadn't even premiered yet.
Right.
No, it
and then-
hadn't, Blake. You dumb mother.
Fucker. But anyway, and then I remember that was one of the things that they like scapegoated for the death of the sequel to Superman Returns. Like they had been trying to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna come out with Superman Unleashed, and then finally like, the writer's strike happened, and it's like, what?
No, you just didn't make enough money.
Yeah. Well, at the time-
Superman Unleashed: Revenge of the Airplane.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's not talk about that in the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember at the time, and this was just me being a dumb high schooler, being like, man, what does that have to do with anything? It's based on a comic book. What do you have to write?
It's already done.
It's on your bookshelf, stupid.
Just get out the camera. I'll get out the popcorn.
What's
What's there to be confused about?
Yeah, but they're like, yeah. So that was one of the things that they're like, oh yeah, that's why there wasn't a sequel to Superman Returns. So I remember Tina Fey was one of the main leaders in the strike, or she was at least one of the ones that was interviewed a lot. So, 30 Rock, yeah, 30 Rock took a hit from it, but then. If I had been the age I am now back then, I would have been able to predict, guys, they're gonna cook up a deal by the Oscars, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They were able to
Right.
bring them back by the Oscars. So.
Let's
Yeah.
move into our
Man,
last.
I wish that was true this year.
Yeah.
It'll be back by the Oscars, whatever.
One day you'll just wake up and it'll all be gone.
They're gonna come out with a vaccine by the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? You might get it, but you'll wake up feeling better than you did 20 years ago.
They'll have it ready for the Tonys. How could?
Let's move on to our last cultural topic, the launch of Tumblr. I bring this up specifically because I remember this being the time when like blogging and vlogging really started to kick off, and that whole community and culture started to really become a popular thing. Blake, I know you had like much love for Tumblr back in the day, so I'm going to go ahead and bounce it to you.
I just in its prime,
Mm-hmm.
especially like before it was bought out by Yahoo. I adored. Yeah, I know. Anyway, I adored that website so much. I loved it. It was all the cool parts of Facebook and Twitter just mashed together, and it was just, if you had the passion for its format and the content, it was just a fun site too. Like it was fun to just play around on. I wish it was still relevant. Like, I mean, that's why we haven't even made a Fat Minute Tumblr, and I'm probably not going to really utilize Tumblr for Puka Saucy.
Right.
It just kind of burned out. It burned out. I don't know if it burned out or faded away. I kind of lost track.
I think the age of what it was made for just kind of came and went.
Well, it's just you're able to do all the quick, short and sweet stuff on Twitter, and then if you need a post longer than that, you just do an Instagram caption or you do a Facebook status. But yeah, I didn't get it until 2009, 2010. I think I got it in the spring of 2010. I know, yeah, that's exactly when, because I literally signed up for it the week of Trevor's birthday, when we just hung out in a hotel room that weekend, and I was trying to talk to everybody else about it, and like, guys, I found this one website and it's really cool, and just nobody cared, but but yeah,
Blake, no one wants to tumble.
But though I will say though, I predicted the rise of Twitter when everybody else laughed at me, so I can claim that one.
They all laughed at me.
Yeah. But no, Tumblr, like, I'll always have a little nostalgic place in my heart for it. Rest in peace to its relevancy.
I mean, it was cool during the age of blogging and all that. You would have like people who would post some like stuff that was really worth reading and stuff that was really interesting and entertaining. But then you would also have like the other end of the spectrum where you would have people who would just be like, I'm just going to post about like shit I did today because that's cool and people want to read that. It's like, no, your name's Jeff. Like, fuck off.
And then you had the third corner of that. People that would post Yoshi and be like, I wonder what his eggs smell like.
That's called 4chan.
No.
Trevor, what do you got to say about Tumblr?
Blake, I do remember you talking about it all the goddamn time. But like I never got into it until I was a little bit older, and by the time I really kind of appreciated what it was, Yahoo had kind of taken over.
Right.
And I didn't really get to experience it for all that long, but my little bit of experience with it, I will say, like, Instagram, Twitter, no one has been able to recreate, like, just the way you can kind of, what are the words I'm looking for? The way of, like, just kind of following what you're interested in and just having, like, a nice wall that kind of blends everything together and just... I don't know. No one has mastered that in the way Tumblr did in its prime.
Mm-hmm. All right, well then let's move on to our next topic, movies. First movie of the night, Norbit. Man, this movie pretty much...
Go ahead, Donnie.
This movie pretty much killed Eddie Murphy's career for a bit, didn't it?
Was it this or Pluto Nash? Or both?
That's probably both. I mean, that's a double whammy.
It was Meet Dave.
Was Meet Dave before Norbit or after?
It's 2008. It came out the same month as The Dark Knight.
Oh no! Rip.
Oh no!
Oh man, Norbit is basically like it's. I'm gonna get some shit for saying this, but it's Black Forrest Gump, like without any
and
of
that's Donnie's second hot take of the evening.
Without any of like the heart and soul, like it's just Eddie Murphy walking around being like really fucking awkward and a giant pussy, while also being just a giant bitch at the same time. Like
it was his Jack and Jill.
Christ, write the back of the DVD, why don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, like it's a stupid fucking movie, and it's just so like amazing to watch it, and then watch stuff that Eddie Murphy did before this movie, and just be like, holy fuck, how the mighty have fallen. Blake, what do you got to say about Norbit?
Absolutely nothing. I never saw it.
Trevor, what do you got to say about Norbit?
Well, as I told Blake about a half hour before this, I watched it at 4 times speed. No, I didn't. And she flew down that water slide so fast.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine what that looked like.
I don't know. It came out at kind of an awkward time for me. Like I love Nutty Professor. I love Meet the Clumps.
Yeah.
And it's still a funny title. And it's just like Eddie Murphy had disappeared there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he made like Pluto Nash, but I remember that being more as like an adult comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But
stop bringing up Pluto Nash.
You've brought it up 35 times.
Now let's talk about
well, that was one of the movies that came out around that time. But
that was like 1999 or 2001 or some shit like that.
Was it?
Yes.
I thought it was like 2005. Okay. But back to my point. You look that up, but both of you look up Pluto Nash. Have that in your search history.
2002.
Okay. Well.
And
that's all I got.
Randy Quaid was in it as Bruno, so there you go.
Thank you. I was wondering who played Bruno. But I guess as like a smaller child, I loved like the whole like you had movies in the 90s where it would be like Eddie Murphy, and they'd have him in the trailer like 4 times because
Yeah.
he plays different characters, like Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy in. But like I don't know. I feel like that kind of gimmick, that shtick, was played out by 07.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember not being interested in that movie like at all.
It was also beautifully parodied by one of the fake trailers in the beginning of Tropic Thunder.
Right.
With Jack Black.
Jeff Portnoy.
In some cultures, it's considered a compliment.
But I mean, yeah, that going back, it took a lot for me to be cynical at that age, but I remember being just like, that looks like shit. So
And like Eddie Murphy hasn't really done anything like majorly noteworthy since then, has he?
No, whoa.
Whoa.
No, last year on Netflix, he had I Am Dolomite, and that was
Okay,
gold.
yeah.
That was
But
I thought it was Dolomite Is My Name.
But
Dolomite
that
is
too.
my name, whatever, I'm sorry.
but before that, like, what did he do that was like majorly noteworthy?
All right.
Pluto
Okay.
Nash.
Don't backpedal on me. You're like, what has he done? And then I bring it up, and you're like, okay, well, other than that,
What else has he done?
Between Norbit and Dolomite Is My Name, what did he do?
Norbit.
Whatever.
You put the movie on there, you don't even know the name.
I'm sorry, just like Eddie Murphy, I went full retard watching it.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
You just lost Kaiser.
Oh, well, no.
They are off the air.
You just lost the left. Anyway, no, hold on.
Yeah, what else big has he done? He did Meet Dave. He did Pluto Nash.
Stop.
Between those two movies, between 2007 and 2019, what did he do?
Well, of course you fucking rigged the time zone.
Yeah.
did,
well, fuck me. I asked if he did.
He did a Tower Heist.
That had a decent opening weekend from what I remember.
I mean, it's okay if you need to kill like 2 hours and you have nothing to do.
Oh, it's a very painfully mediocre movie.
Yeah.
Wasn't Matthew Broderick the main character in that?
No, well,
He's one of the main characters.
Donnie,
it
when
was
you
Ben
said
Stiller.
when
it
you
was Ben Stiller.
Yeah. What was that? Trevor?
when you started the sentence with "when you want to kill," I thought that was going somewhere completely different.
We need to move on.
Okay.
Okay. Next movie, Ghostwriter. I haven't seen this movie. I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I remember when I watched it, I was like, I mean, everybody shits on this movie hardcore, but I kind of had a similar reaction to Daredevil, but not quite like. I mean, I would rather watch Daredevil than this, but
Right.
I still remember watching this thinking like it's okay. I mean, especially as far as Nick Cage movies go, it had moments where it was a little cringy, a little overacted, but I mean there was also a lot of moments that were cool. Ghostwriter looked fucking cool. It kind of sucks that we haven't had like another Ghostwriter movie since Spirit of Vengeance, and we've only seen Ghostwriter in a TV show, which. I'm sorry, Ghostwriter should not be relegated to a TV-only character. Like, he can easily kill, like, all those people in that Defenders show. Like,
A show about S.H.I.E.L.D., mind you.
yeah, like, he can easily kill anybody else in that cast. He deserves his own movie. Trevor, what do you got to say about Ghostwriter?
Among those, like, early 2000s pre-cinematic universe movies, it was one of the not so bad ones.
Yeah,
I would
like
say.
it's all right.
I'd put it probably above the first Fantastic Four. Not quite a Daredevil.
Yeah.
Maybe better than a couple of the X-Men's.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoyed it for what it's worth. But one thing I did not like was the villain. I mean, was it Blackheart?
Blackheart.
Right.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Maybe
that's
that's just because I grew up with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Which
exactly. I was
Blackheart
about to say
in.
that. Like, he looks so cool in those games and in the comics, and he doesn't look anything like that in the movie.
Right. It just reminded me of like how you would have those strange adaptations in the early 90s, like the Mario Brothers movie, where like they would take a really awesome looking villain and just make him human and stay human for no real reason. A newer concept of that would be Wonder Woman. How, spoilers, Ares was the villain, but they kept him having that British face the whole time.
Yeah, it was.
That,
it's also
that frail British guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
With that movie, when they had that dude playing Ares, I was like, no, I'm sorry.
It'd be cool if he shapeshifted and stayed in his big form, but
right. Well, it's that scene where it shows that scene where it shows him in the cave after Zeus kicked his ass and he's all muscular and shit. That looked like porn star quality CGI.
Right.
And also I'm sorry, Ares, the god of war, played by that dopey looking fucking dude. Ares needs
Professor
to be played
Lupin?
Ares needs to be played by a fucking stud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, they basically had him played by the humanoid version of a crumpet.
Yeah.
Right.
The most British man of all time.
Meet the crumpets. But back to
Ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Back to Ghostwriter. I did enjoy it for the most part. Besides the villain.
Yeah.
And Nick Cage's shitty haircut.
Yeah.
He looked like a 5-year-old on picture day in that movie.
God, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I love how you had the kind of Old West Ghost Rider as well.
That part was awesome.
Sam Elliott?
Yeah, he played him.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild. But
I
enjoyed it for the most part.
Our one, I'm gonna sorry to interrupt, but our one viewer posted in the chat posted something else. Jack7 says, "Fun fact from the Fact Fiend video uploaded today about Nick Cage's spending habits. Cage tried to write buying a Cobra off his taxes because he was studying its movements for the Ghost Rider role."
Jeez.
All right.
I'm liking this guy, whoever he is. Is it your friend Jack Trevor?
It might be Jackson. I'm not too sure.
But anyway, for Ghost Rider, it's not boring, which, as far as the pre-Dark Knight Marvel Cinematic Universe era of superhero movies, that was all you could really ask for from, a not so top tier character in the mainstream sense. But, it's entertaining enough for its 100 minutes, 120 minutes. I will say though, and I've been saying,
you give it too much credit.
Yeah.
120 minutes, okay.
I will say though, and I've been saying this for almost 10 years now, the 2011 film Drive Angry is a more fun Ghost Rider movie than the actual Ghost Rider movies with Nick Cage.
I never disrobe before a fight.
No, I
remember when the villain got shot and he made his way up to the ethereal realm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
In the pantheon of movies that are so bad they're good, that movie is like watching Apocalypse Now. In that it is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So I think the verdict is Ghost Rider 07, so good, we brought up 3 other movies and spent more time on them.
Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, dog shit.
Never saw it.
It's dog shit.
I feel like they went too crazy with that one after whatever feedback they got from this one.
Yeah. One point I want to bring up about the first Ghost Rider movie was that, despite its character and its subject material about being about hell and shit, it has it's PG-13, but it has kind of a much more family friendly nature to it, that more so than you would expect for a demon that rides a motorcycle and burns people's souls.
Yeah.
Ironically, it feels like, for being made by Sony, it feels like what if Disney had made a Ghost Rider movie.
I could definitely see that.
In a weird way.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you could go down to Burger King and get Happy Meal toys of them, or a Kids Meal toys of them, but maybe Wendy's.
Yeah.
And then I will say this also. The same thing could also have been said for and this is double ironic, for the Fantastic Four movies. We didn't talk about it in 2005, and we didn't. I guess is
that's okay.
Is Rise of the Silver Surfer one of the movies on the list for tonight, Donnie?
No, but if you would like to talk about it, be my guest.
Just because I brought up the point, I will say though, with those two movies, I don't think they're as bad as other people say they are. But ironically, for the time, for even though they were made by Fox in that time, the two Fantastic Four movies also feel like they were made by Disney in a weird way. So that's my last thoughts on Ghostwriter is the Fantastic Four.
All right, well,
4 movies.
Let's move on to our next movie, Zodiac. Now, I've been meaning to watch this movie for a while, and I finally watched it for the first time today, like a few hours before the show. It's a good movie. The second half of this movie is definitely where it really shines. Like, the second half of this movie is way better than the first half. I felt like the first half of this movie spends like a lot of time trying to figure out what kind of movie it wants to be. And then also I feel like, because Mark Ruffalo and Jake Gyllenhaal are like very much presented as like these are going to be the two main guys, like pretty early on in the movie. But like they don't finally meet and like start working together until literally at the halfway point. And it kind of back to the point of how I said this movie in the first half can't really decide what kind of movie it wants to be. Like it jumps around so much with the different plot threads that like there's like a solid 30 or 40 minutes in the first half where like Jake Gyllenhaal's just like absent completely. And it's like the first half is just, it's weirdly paced. It's just weirdly laid out. Like I remember the one scene where the Zodiac killer, basically kidnaps that woman with her baby and he's driving. He's just like, before I kill you, I'm going to throw your baby out the window. Giving me goosebumps watching that scene. And then immediately it just cuts to like this weird montage of like newspaper headlines with this, super jazzy, like dynamic poppy music. And it's just like, it felt like a record scratch just having like that kind of like scene. It's like, what is this movie trying to be? Is it trying to be a detective caper? Is it trying to be like a thriller, like a dark comedy maybe? What's going on? But once it gets to the second half, once you get past that halfway point, like the movie really kicks off and like really keeps your attention and investment. Trevor, what do you got to say about Zodiac?
I'll be honest. Zodiac is probably my favorite Fincher movie out of his entire filmography.
Okay.
I mean, I don't do this with a lot of movies, but this is a movie I try to revisit like every year or two, at least once.
Yeah.
But I love it, and I don't know. I see your points about the first half, but I really had no problems with it. I think it's a little fun that it does that a number of times where it kind of plays the really dark scene off like a more comical scene. But I have to say, like, the scene where the killer is interacting with that couple at the lake, that is one of the most raw and I don't know, like powerful like murder scenes I've seen in any modern movie.
Very
like,
simple and stripped down.
Absolutely love that scene.
Yeah.
Like I show it to people when I'm like, you want to see how cool this movie is? That's like the scene.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love the interview with I can't recall his name, but the
Brian
one guy
Cox?
they think is that the one where he's like in the break room at the factory or whatever.
Oh no! I thought you were talking about like the televised interview with Brian Cox.
No.
That's a good scene too, though.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm talking about why can't I think of his name?
Oh, he's
the guy with the wristwatch.
Yeah.
The guy that's like, and if I did do it, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I love.
He's a great.
I love
actor. He's
the
a very
energy.
underappreciated actor.
Right. Just that movie has so many characters where there's like all this like it's such simple scenes, but there's so much like powerful energy coming from the actors.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and to a lesser extent when Jake Gyllenhaal's investing, like looking into that guy's house
in the basement,
and he's like, oh shit, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like there's so much just raw energy in that movie, and I love it.
Blake?
Yeah, it is one of the one of my favorite David Fincher movies. I don't know if I like it as much as Seven or more than Seven. That's tough for me. And then really just like Fight Club is just such a misunderstood movie. The film itself became annoying to me, even though that's like really the fans' fault. But it was just such a great cast, and literally Robert Downey Jr. has not stopped playing that character or some variant of him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I remember Trevor made that joke about his Tony Stark. It's like, bro, he's literally the same fucking character in Zodiac.
You don't get an Oscar for playing the same guy for 10 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't equal good.
Well, it's like other than like what he did in Tropic Thunder, and Sherlock Holmes, and then like I didn't actually see the movie, but like his version of Dr. Dolittle, he just looked like he was doing a kid-friendly version of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
But anyway, honestly though, Donnie, I have kind of the opposite memory of your reaction to it. I haven't seen it recently. I should revisit it soon, but I thought the first half had a lot more steam in it than in the second half, and it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of not petered out, but kind of petered around, I guess. But
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love the transition of that woman screaming, and then the montage of like the news outlets and doing the song "I'll Take You Higher." I guess that's what the song they're using is. Yeah, no, I thought that was a great transition. I mean, I'm not trying to call you out or anything, but yeah, just funny enough.
It definitely has a hill, like right around the time that like they think the killer's coming after Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and they're like protecting him. Like,
yeah,
that's always the part where I'm like, okay, but I mean, it doesn't slow down that bad.
And I just remember, like you said, like there's a little bit where Jake Gyllenhaal is kind of sort of absent.
Not kind of, sort of, like he's just completely gone.
And
you said in the first act, right?
Yeah, it's like in the first half of the movie, there's like a solid chunk of time where Jake Gyllenhaal's just like gone.
I think that's still not as bad as how like what like more than halfway through the movie or in the second half of the movie, like Robert Downey Jr. just literally doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, like that was another point I forgot to ramp. Like Jake Gyllenhaal's, Robert Downey Jr. and then Mark Ruffalo's partner, I forget who the actor's name is. But like, yeah, they both of them just like are shunted out of the story like very unceremoniously.
Yeah,
and I feel like the time skips and the length of them become a lot more frequent in the second half.
I don't know if you have it, Trevor. You've seen it, and I don't know if it's the one that you watched, Donnie. Have either of you seen the extended director's cut of it?
No, I just watched the version that's on Netflix.
What about you, Trevor?
I may have. I'm drawing a blank on what exactly is different. I think that's the version I have.
It's the one that came in the DVD case where it looks like a cold case folder file.
Yeah, that's the version I have.
Okay, then you have seen it then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to let me look up real quick what the
maybe that's why I'm not seeing what Donnie's seeing, because I've seen that version.
I mean, I would definitely be willing to give the extended version a watch.
Basically, Donnie, you're wrong. Shut up.
All right, well, have fun with the show then.
No, hold on. Okay, so the director's cut is only like 5 minutes longer. So I don't know if that.
But that 5 minutes fixes it.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard that.
I've just been so spoiled with Zack Snyder being like, "Here's another fucking half hour." But anyway, no, I'll definitely have to watch it again soon, even if it is just a theatrical cut on Netflix, because I remember it ultimately still being a good movie.
I mean, I liked it. I'm just saying, like, that first half it wasn't a chore, but it was definitely like lesser compared to the second half, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think we can all agree, like, before we move on to the next movie, though, like, it's no Pluto Nash.
Fuck off.
Let's move on to our next movie, Hot Fuzz. I fucking love this movie. This is my favorite movie of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy. it's just so unapologetically dry British humor, and I love it for it. Just
The great are good.
yeah, my favorite line in the movie is when Simon Pegg's like talking about like his prior police work and how he mentions he'd been stabbed, and and Nick
By
Frost
Father
is,
Christmas.
yeah, Nick Frost is like, what's it like? What was it like being stabbed? And Simon Pegg's just like, it was the single most painful experience of my life. And there's just like a pause. What was the second most painful? And Simon Pegg just dead stares right at the camera. That line always kills me. But it's definitely, in my opinion, the best movie out of that trilogy. Trevor, what do you think?
Well, you're reminding me how my dumbass younger self always thought, for whatever reason, because I didn't do my research, that Paul was the third movie in the Cornetto trilogy. No, I absolutely love Hot Fuzz. Ironically, this is another movie I try to revisit every year or two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even like the biggest action movie guy, but like it's so quotable, and I think it really helps that it's a giant nod and celebration of a ton of different action movies from over the years. But there's just a lot about this movie I really love. I sometimes just random quotes from it come to mind, such as a big bushy beard. I love that. Just the other day at Blake, I used the one where the one guy's like, "I think I have a cream for that."
He's like, I'm not atheist, I'm agnostic.
He's like, "I think I have a cream for that."
Fuck off. Oh man.
And then what's his name? I'm a slasher. Arrest me.
All right, so can you describe the swan to me? Well, it's a swan.
But probably my all-time favorite bit of the movie is just the ongoing bit of trash bins hitting people in the head. Just
Yeah.
you cheeky fucker. But
You've never seen Bad Boys 2?
There's just a ton about this movie I love, but by far it is the best out of the three Cornetto movies.
Mm-hmm. Blake?
So I'm that one weird guy where I've said in the past my favorite.
Here we go.
My personal favorite was actually The World's End, but you know what? Maybe it's about time that I revisit all three of them sometime. But anyway, no, Hot Fuzz. Like, I remember my first time watching this was I didn't get to see it in theaters. I had to watch it I borrowed it on video from a buddy, and I watched this with my mom. And I don't know who laughed harder. Like, my mom and I both like thought this was funny as shit. But our favorite part was when he just gets all the patrons kicked out of that pub, and like literally that was the only business that guy got was the underage kids.
Yeah.
It's just he's going around. It's like, when's your birthday? What year? Every year.
Out.
Out. And finally everyone's kicked out. And he doesn't have anybody left. He's like, "Can I get you another cranberry juice?" And my mom was just like, she had to do that thing where she obviously had to state the punchline, but she's like, he kicked out the only business he had. But yeah, no, it's, and then you have, I don't know if it was intentional, but you had like one of the James Bonds as the villain, but it wasn't like one of the most popular James Bonds, but he was pretty good for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really for me to say about this movie other than just quoting the whole thing. But
Right.
But yeah, a big bushy beard, the greater good. What about I love the quick cameos of Bill Nighy and Martin Freeman. But it's like the bloopers to this is really great too, and it's like it proves it's like, how can you make a movie like this without messing up every single scene at least half a dozen times?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just 3/4 of the footage you would have would just be everyone laughing. But no, it's a fun time. Even if it may not be my favorite of the trilogy, I don't know. I'll have to reassess. I do love it more than Shaun of the Dead. But that's also because I love action movies more than zombie movies, so it's more personal to me.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to rank them from least to best, it would be Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, and then Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
But let's move on to our next movie, a movie that I know we're gonna have a lot to say about. Spider-Man 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, so I'm gonna have another hot take here. Spider-Man 3. Like I haven't seen Spider-Man 3 from beginning to end. Like I saw this movie in theaters back in 2007, and since then I've seen like bits and pieces as it's been on like TV or whatever. I haven't watched it from beginning to end since I saw it in theaters, and just a week ago I watched it because I have it on Blu-ray. I watched it, and just to like kind of like refresh my memory and make sure like my opinion was still valid. I've forgotten how fucking like cringy, even before he like gets the black suit and starts doing that weird dance in the middle of the street, how fucking cringy Peter Parker is in this movie. Like 5 minutes in, I'm already like, this guy needs to stop. Like the scene when he's going to the theater to watch Mary Jane in her show, and he's just like, he just like sits down. He's like, "Ooh, I'm so nervous."
Ooh, cold.
Yeah, and then like he just like kind of like nudges the guy next to him and points like, "That's my girlfriend." Like I was waiting for the fucking laugh track to kick in. But a bit of a hot take I have with this movie. Everybody blames Sony for how this movie turned out because Sony insisted that Sam Raimi make a movie with Venom in it. I'm going to tell you right now, the flaws with this movie are Sam Raimi's fault, not Sony's. Not on the case of Venom, people have been asking for a Spider-Man movie with Venom since the first movie. So people being mad that Sony told Sam Raimi to put Venom in a movie, basically you're mad that Sony committed the crime of saying, hey, give the people what they want. And as far as everything else with the movie, there's so much stuff that like has nothing that's wrong with it that has nothing to do with Sony. I mean, Peter and Harry's like conflict has been building up since the end of the first movie. Previous movie, he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. So it's like we go into the third movie expecting this final big fight between the two. Their conflict is effectively over within the first 25 minutes of the movie because of the lamest fucking reason, which is Harry gets amnesia from hitting his head. Mary Jane and Peter's relationship in this movie is literally just them trying to underhand and piss off each other. Ironically, the best part of the movie is the part that needs to be taken out the most, and that is the Sandman. Sandman is very well done in this movie. But the whole thing with him being the guy who killed Uncle Ben, it's stupid, it's shoehorned, and it undermines fan investment from the previous two movies. And also, removing him would have allowed more time for the Peter and Harry conflict to have like its due justice and its, the conclusion that it deserved. And it would have given more time for the character of Eddie Brock and Venom to like develop and get what it deserved in that department. I mean, the Sandman, he was done well, but he shouldn't have been there to begin with, in my opinion. So that's why I say that this movie is Sam Raimi's fault, not Sony's. And also, I kind of hate that people play the Sony card as a kind of like with the attitude of, Sony ruined Sam Raimi's baby. I'm not disregarding that studio interference happens. Studio interference totally happens. It's totally a thing. The most recent Fantastic Four movie is evidence of that. Mm-hmm. But this was not a case of that. This was a case that this was not Sam Raimi's baby or vision that he, created. This was a movie that Sony had in the works for like years and had multiple people attached to before Sam Raimi came along. Not putting down the great films that he made with the previous two, but he was a hired hand. And the only crime the studio made was give people the villain that they've been asking for. So that's what I got to say about this movie. I'm going to bounce it over to you, Blake.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with, much or even most of that. One thing, and I think this was a point that you very much appreciated me saying, was it's kind of weird how, Sam Raimi didn't want to do Venom because that wasn't like his preferred period. That wasn't his favorite era or whatever. You know, he grew up with like the golden age. You know, the '60s and
Right.
and you know, and Venom was obviously created in the late '80s, right?
Yeah. Well, mid '80s.
Yeah, but point is that was like a generation after Raimi's childhood. You know, that
Right.
was
Right.
after his inspiration.
Right.
And it's still kind of weird because, yeah, you know, it's a character that like you discovered as a grown man. You didn't grow up with him, but it's like you would think that the creator of Evil Dead and Army of Darkness would have thought Venom was really cool.
Right.
Like that's just kind of weird in a way that like, you know, the guy who made, you know, Ash versus the Evil Dead and whatnot, like he wasn't interested in Venom when like really like you could do a very like, because the scene in Spider-Man 2 where Doc Ock is killing all those surgeons, that was very much a reference to Evil Dead, you know, its energy and whatnot. So you could have really done some Evil Dead aesthetics and energy with Venom.
Right.
So it was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, it is unfortunate how, like, honestly, the best actor in this movie, or at least the actor that really seemed like he was giving a shit, you know, was Thomas Hayden Church as the Sandman. Like,
Yeah.
he was done well. But then it's like such a weird choice because, like, really, Sam Raimi, like, that's who you were going to choose to close out, like, the superhero trilogy was the Sandman? Like, it's just kind of weird in a way. Interesting choice. Like, you'd think he would have been more of a, I don't know, like a random, you know, thug or goon character in another movie.
It's also like I kind of hate the whole subplot of like Sandman's doing what he does so he can like help his daughter who's really sick, and I'm like, okay, I guess you're trying to humanize him, but on the other hand, I'm like, you know, it feels like it comes off as him really trying to give a reason for like for him to be committing crimes and therefore a reason for Spider-Man to like fight him, and I'm like, the fact that he's, you know, destroying the town isn't enough of a reason to fight him. Like,
well, it's like, yeah, and it's like also, you know, you added that to humanize him, you know, like he's trying to see his daughter and stuff, and in a weird way, it's like you're just trying to do Doc Ock again, where it's like, oh, Doc Ock lost his wife and stuff, and it's like, no, like move on, like do a different approach to a villain.
Give us a villain who's actually a villain.
Like, I don't understand why it would have been a problem for the first half of this movie to have been Spider-Man versus the second Green Goblin, and then do, you know, Eddie Brock becoming Venom in the second half, as opposed to like not really the third act, but almost like the second half of the third act, you know?
Yeah. Which I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, Blake, but
no, that's okay.
I also want to bring up the whole thing. I feel like Harry should not like have become the second Green Goblin at all in these movies. Because I feel like the second he saw his dad's secret lab with the pumpkin bombs and the suit and everything, he should have been like, oh shit, my dad was the guy who vaporized all those people at the parade. He was a bad person.
And tried to kill my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah. Maybe my friend was in the right here. Which, don't even fucking get me started on that scene with the butler. I cleaned your dad's wounds.
Yeah, well, it's like, dude, like, you had the whole trilogy to open your mouth.
Yeah.
I loved your father.
Yeah.
I loved you.
And then, I mean, you could really turn this into an episode in and of itself, which, like, I hate to...
And that's what we're doing.
I hate to be a spoiler here, but we should definitely have a Spider-Man special in the future.
Absolutely.
And then but I'm going to bounce it to you, Trevor. I don't want to keep, you know, hogging the stage here, but
That's okay. You are, though.
One more thing before I bounce it off to Trevor, and then I guess open it up so we can all just interrupt each other. If you really want to talk about what can be cut out of this movie, Gwen Stacy is completely pointless here.
Yeah.
So I would say have her be the first on the chopping block, because she's literally just there to create more resentment between Peter, which, like, that was all. Literally.
Blake, you're breaking up a bit. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody listening. Hopefully we'll get back on track here soon.
Hello?
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 All right, we're sounding better so far.
You sound fine to me.
Yeah, so do you.
You sound fine.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Shut up.
All right, yeah, this sounds much better. All right.
Cool.
Okay.
So go ahead, Blake. You were talking about how
Well, yeah, I know. Okay, so basically, just a quick recap. Personally, the first and main thing that should have been cut from the movie, with all due respect, was Gwen Stacy. Sorry, there wasn't really. I mean, it just seemed like there was enough tension between I almost said PJ, no, Peter and MJ. But anyway, yeah, I didn't think because it also just fizzles out. Like she just after like I don't know after he tries to make Mary Jane jealous at the bar or whatever, Gwen Stacy just fucks right off.
Yeah.
But anyway, I give it to you now, Trevor.
Geez, where to begin?
there is a lot to unfold with this movie.
I definitely believe Sandman's the best part. Honestly, the scene where he first kind of gets his powers and whatnot in that machine is probably the best scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's like the birth of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Mary Jane and Peter Parker essentially become characters of each other in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mary Jane, when you look back, is really kind of toxic outside of the first movie, I guess. And that gets even worse in this one, and Peter becomes more of a stumbling, awkward mess in this one.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where it's like any suspension of disbelief is just gone for me.
Yeah.
Harry should have been someone besides the new Goblin, which is a terrible name as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want him as a Goblin, just use the Hobgoblin character. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. Just make him something else.
Yeah.
Because that Mountain Dew advertisement looking dude just did not do it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, more recent media has played around with him as Venom, and I would have been fine with that. And finally with Venom, like, I feel like Eddie Brock in the movie was too on the nose for an antithesis of Peter Parker. Like,
really?
I thought it was too on the nose. Like, it was just, what if Peter Parker, but bad things constantly happen to him? And that's not what Eddie Brock is at the end of the day. And honestly, if anything that Eddie Brock made me realize Topher Grace could have possibly been a better Peter Parker.
I don't know, like...
Yeah.
In hindsight, like, watching this movie again recently, in hindsight, I feel like Topher Grace, even though he doesn't look the part at all, I felt like he was a okay Eddie Brock, like, just an arrogant, underhanded prick who just tries to cheat to get his way.
Yeah. I don't know, because, like, I don't know if it's just Topher Grace playing him, but he kind of felt like Snively in the movie, and I always picture Eddie as, like, kind of like a bulkier, like strong arm the situation kind of character.
Confident, slaps his balls on the table.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think there's an issue about that. But I don't know. But with Topher Grace playing him, I just kind of saw him more as, like, Snively, conniving. Like, it wasn't Eddie Brock for me.
Yeah.
It was, let's have a Peter Parker, but the opposite first, and Eddie Brock second.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree too. Gwen Stacy was completely misused in this.
Yeah.
It didn't even make sense to have her be Gwen Stacy at that point.
Right.
Like,
And
they could have used they could have honestly used what's her name from the Daily Bugle, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that would actually could have, or Mr. Dickovich's daughter. Like, if the only reason
I want to spin off with him one day.
Yeah. If the only reason you needed Gwen Stacy in this movie was just so he could use her in the nightclub scene to make MJ jealous, You could have
Right.
done that with like the other girls that already existed in this trilogy.
Yeah. And I fucking love, like, God, talking about
It's
how
like-
MJ's toxic in this movie. I love how she goes to Harry's apartment in the middle of the night and, like, hangs out with this guy that she knows is probably trying to kill her boyfriend. Hangs out with him, kisses him, and it's just like, wow, you are a really shitty person.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, she would have.
Did you forget in the last movie how she was going to marry a guy just to be petty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is definitely the worst of MJ and Peter's relationship.
Right. But I will say though, like, more so than in a broader sense than just Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I will have to agree that like the part of the aspect or the piece of this trilogy that has aged the worst in hindsight is the character of MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Gwen Stacy in this is just like used by Peter Parker, and it's like you don't even like see her side of that,
Yeah.
and it's just like
No.
awkward. She's honestly like an object in the movie, and it sucks for kind of an iconic love interest of
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, it was the only thing, to just really just throw away, treat a iconic supporting character like that as a throwaway. It was only to be outdone by Jimmy Olsen being in the opening Lois Lane scene of the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman. Just
Yeah.
him being that CIA agent that gets like shot in the head right away. But yeah. No, God, guys, we really need to do a Spider-Man episode one day.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah.
we could really go on and on and on about this.
Just this one specifically.
Yeah, even just this one. But what? Okay. Since it's almost too easy to rag on this. What are some things we can say that we actually liked about it that we haven't already mentioned?
I mean, the Sandman. Oh, we already mentioned Sandman.
Yeah.
I mean, the even though the way it was handled and concluded was lackluster, that scene when Peter and Harry are fighting, like, for the most part, hand to hand in his mansion, that scene was really cool. That was really well done. I mean, what we got of Venom, even though it wasn't what the character deserved and all that, what we got of Venom was pretty good. I also liked his design in the movie.
I always really liked his voice when he had the Venom
Yeah.
symbiote. Like,
Yeah.
he almost sounded like that's as much as I kind of ragged on Topher Grace's Eddie Brock. Like he like masters it as Venom, just
Yeah.
with the voice and like the character,
Mhm.
like the character traits. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the opposite of what I think of Tobey Maguire in these three movies. I think he's an all right Peter Parker, but kind of a shit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's my hot take of the evening.
I don't think he's shit at all in 2. I think he at least shines in 2, but it shit. I mean,
even though it is super cringy, the scene where he's walking down the street and dancing, and he buys that black like dress suit and everything. I do like that scene because yes, it is cringy, but that's kind of the point because he's like so super confident and arrogant now. Like he literally gives no fucks. So like, yeah, it's awkward, it's weird, and it makes you cringe, but that's the point. That's what it's supposed to do. So I do like that now in hindsight.
yeah.
I mean, I would. There's a lot of movies that like, I would much rather watch this over than like a lot of other movies. As much as I rag on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd rather watch it over Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And I mean, one. I'm
While I was listening.
I've reached
I
the
was
point
listening.
where I'm just having trouble spitting it out.
I'm just having trouble spitting.
I'm having a stroke right now. But can we also talk about how much of a insert Tim Allen grunt the proposed Spider-Man 4 was going to be.
I was about to say, if you need...
I was going to bring that up when you were talking about how, this is Raimi's
kind
of issue.
I was about to say, if you need any more proof that Spider-Man 3 is the fault of Sam Raimi dropping the ball, just look at what Spider-Man 4 was supposed to be.
See, for the longest time, I wasn't aware of the Mysterio part. So talk about that for a second, Donnie.
Yeah, so Sam Raimi, in one part of Spider-Man 4, he wanted to have, I guess in the beginning, a montage of Spider-Man taking down quote-unquote D-list villains, one of which was going to be Mysterio, which, first off, Mysterio is not a D-list villain. Fuck off. And second, he was going to have Mysterio be a fucking fat ass. He was going to be he was going to have this big fucking gut. And he was going to be played by Bruce Campbell, and it's you don't waste Bruce Campbell like that. Bruce Campbell back then as Mysterio would have been fucking awesome. You make that the main villain, you got a great movie on your hands. So, and that's another villain. Mysterio is another villain that I feel the director of Evil Dead would fucking love. But for him to just he was planning to do that, no, it was obvious that Sam Raimi had he didn't just fall asleep at the wheel at this point. He crashed into the fucking tree.
And then, I guess what's more baffling about the Mysterio thing was, Mysterio would be of the period that Sam Raimi liked the most. It's not like he was some edgelord 90s concoction.
He was one of Spider-Man's first villains.
Yeah.
Within his first year.
I don't think anyone would consider him D-list.
Yeah.
I think D-list Spider-Man villains, and I think Stiltman.
Yeah.
People no one have heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but then also how he was gonna have Felicia Hardy in it, but she wasn't gonna be Black Cat. She was gonna be the Vulturess, and it's what are you doing?
I love how after The Dark Knight Rises came out, he tried to be oh no, she was gonna turn into Black Cat. Sure she was.
Sure she was.
Yeah.
Because he was gonna have Felicia Hardy played by Anne Hathaway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that was that was a saga of Anne Hathaway trying to be cat supervillains for some reason.
Yeah.
But no, I'm I'm a big fan of her in The Dark Knight Rises. I thought she was good.
I also love how the reason Spider-Man 4 didn't happen was because Sam Raimi was I don't have enough time to get this movie out. The movie was supposed to come out in May 2011. It's dude, you had twice as much time to work on this movie than you did between 2 and 3. What do you mean you can't get it out?
I'm busy working on Drag Me to Hell.
But considering what Spider-Man 4 was supposed to be, I'm silently glad that it didn't happen, in all honesty.
Yeah. I know, and this is why I keep getting tongue-tied or whatever. I know there's something about Spider-Man 3 I'm forgetting or leaving out, but I don't know. I gotta move on.
Let's move on to our next movie.
Speaking of moving on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good segue, Blake.
You're so sassy. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Yeah, Blake, I think you described this movie perfectly, I think, in the previous episode. This movie's
movie.
This movie's a chore.
Hold on, let him praise what I said in the past.
Blake, you described this movie as a chore, and I think you're absolutely right. Black Pearl, the return of the fun summer blockbuster. Dead Man's Chest, let's kick that up to 11. At World's End, I'm tired, let's take a nap.
Yeah.
There's just nothing fucking fun about this movie at all.
No.
And
fuck this movie.
Yeah, I remember when it came out and people were saying this stuff. I'm back then I was I think everybody's exaggerating. It's not that bad. Looking back now, no, it is that bad. It's not fun at all. It is so fucking boring. Talk about it, Trevor.
Talk about it. Yeah,
Blake described it perfectly, but Trevor, you talk about it first.
Don't give him a chance to defend himself. Yeah, it's just it was such a bummer after Dead Man's Chest. That movie was just super exciting. I was never into Curse of the Black Pearl, really. That's what the first one was called, right? That's bad. I don't know that. Yeah. I never was too into it, but I remember seeing Dead Man's Chest with a few of you guys, and I was like, oh, these movies are awesome. I love Davy Jones. I love a lot of the ensemble cast. It's awesome. And then Dead Man's Chest ends on that awesome note where it's you don't know what's going to happen to Jack Sparrow. They somehow got what's his name on their side helping out, and then the third one came out and it was just boring, and I can't even recall specific scenes from it.
Yeah.
It was not a very good follow-up.
Remember that one joke in The Simpsons about Pirates 3 where Bart's driving
8 years after it came out, probably?
No, it was right after the movie.
Okay.
Bart's driving some sort of I forget what, the farm tractor that cuts up hay and shoots it out into bundles and shit. He runs over a pile of manure and it shoots out DVDs of Pirates 3.
That's pretty good.
It's so lame and juvenile, but it's so funny.
Blake, is the third one the one where the lady got real big and collapsed the ship like a neutron star?
Yes.
That's the third one?
Yes.
That movie gave some sort of 14-year-old some weird feelings inside, and he's in this call right now. Oh, no, just kidding.
What?
I was talking about myself, not you, Blake.
Oh.
Blake, talk about Pirates 3.
Oh, I don't want to. Anyway.
Next movie.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is too long. It's boring. And also, I guess you could say, well, it's an action-adventure fantasy. Technically, that's what screenwriting is for this genre. But, it reached a point where it just felt like they just were making shit up as they went along.
Yeah.
Nothing in this movie feels planned out.
The Pirate Council.
Yeah, the Pirate Council, oh, isn't that awesome? They got Keith, what's the motherfucker from the Rolling Stones to do a cameo?
Keith Richards?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Keith Richards?
As his dad.
Yeah, he's his dad. And it's oh, wow, we shake soda cans.
Whoa. His dad is the guy his character's heavily based on.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, wow, a famous guy heard an interview where he mentioned him, and then he got paid money to be in the movie. Oh, wow, they did it. I don't know, I'm being very cynical right now. But anyway.
A little bit.
But it's... And also, and no, I think Dead Man's Chest was before we actually hung out, Trevor.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but... And the thing is, this movie sours Dead Man's Chest because Dead Man's Chest is, whether people want to admit this or not, Dead Man's Chest is the Matrix Reloaded, where it's just one big setup for the third movie. It's one big to be continued. So,
right.
Personally, in my opinion, my feelings towards the second film, hang by a thread on what I think of the third film. So, the Matrix Revolutions was a bummer, so then that kind of sours how I feel about the Matrix Reloaded. Same thing applies here. At World's End kind of sort of ruins, the ending of Dead Man's Chest. And yeah, but I mean, back to, how they were just making up shit as they went along. It was oh, Davy Jones used to be in love with her, and then it's oh, she's able to grow giant and bust into a bunch of crabs, and I'm like, what is this movie even about anymore?
Yeah.
And it's oh no, he has to and then when they make Orlando Bloom's character stab his heart, and then he has to be the captain of the Dutchman and stuff. I'm this ending just fucking sucks. Right. I'm sorry. And I just remember, and this was at a time when, so many of us in the group didn't want to admit that, the movie we just saw was bad. It's oh, yeah, I had fun with it, I guess. We walk out of it, and, I don't know if you did so, Trevor, but I remember a lot of our group of friends that we saw it with got mad at me for not liking it. And I remember I remember Zach, who isn't the one Zach that appeared on this podcast. He was like, "Yeah, Blake's the only one who didn't like it." It's like, whatever, fuck you. No, that doesn't mean calling him out or talking shit. But I just remember him like giving me a hard time for that, so I give him a hard time back. But yeah, no, it didn't even need to sink in for me. From the moment we walked out of this movie, I'm like, no, I didn't enjoy that at all. Like, and this was the summer. If 2006 was the year of the cock, and I forget, 2002 was the year of the twos. 2007 was the year of the trilogies, because you had Spider-Man 3, you had At World's End, Halo 3, Shrek the Third, Rush Hour 3. Like, there were so many trilogies that year, and it was so weird. It was like, did y'all plan this out? But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to not ramble any more than I already have, but At World's End, such a piss poor buzzkill.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I digest.
All right, let's move on to the next movie, Knocked Up. This was Judd Apatow's first movie after The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which, great movie. I love that movie. And it's weird, like, Knocked Up almost feels like a spiritual successor to it, in the sense that it kind of has, like, it feels like it's a similar tone. I mean, I know it's directed by the same guy, but, like, similar tone. It even kind of feels like it has a similar color palette.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Knocked Up's funny. I haven't watched it in a while. Not a lot of specific moments jump out to me. But it's a funny movie. It's a decent movie. It did kind of kickstart the whole thing of where, you want to talk about somebody playing the same character for 10 years. Fucking Seth Rogen in this movie.
Next movie.
You're pregnant? Like, with a baby?
But you got to give him credit for being such a good sport about it, that he had it included in literally the first scene, and This Is the End, when it's like, hey, Seth Rogen, do the laugh. Hey, Seth Rogen, why do you play the same character in every movie?
Yeah. Blake, talk about Knocked Up.
Well, also, like, to your point about Knocked Up versus The 4-Year-Old Virgin, you can almost kind of sort of pretend that Seth Rogen literally is just the same character again from The 4-Year-Old Virgin. They could have easily just given him the same name and been like, oh, well, this is what he did after he
got his tattoos removed.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, my bad. This was what he did after he banged Elizabeth Banks in that tub.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's. I guess one of the main things I say about this movie is it has the absolute worst group of friends I've seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're fucking terrible to each other. And,
yeah.
And in a way, it's funny, but then in another way, it's like, why are you even friends with each other? Like, you're so fucking mean and almost hateful. Just like they make that bet with the one guy from Silicon Valley to like grow his beard out just so they can talk shit on him. And they're just so mean to each other. Like, I don't know, it just pisses me off. That's why I hate That 70s Show, because I watch it and I'm like, why are any of you friends with each other?
Yeah, That 70s Show is really just a chronicle of Foreman being a shitty boyfriend.
He's also just a pussy, and then also like is just his guy friends are just shitty. Like, I wouldn't want to fucking hang out with any of you.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. I'm not going to turn this into a That 70s Show rant. God damn it. No, it's Knocked Up. It's each film by Judd Apatow just doesn't seem as funny as the previous.
Mm-hmm.
I still think his funniest is The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
And then, after Knocked Up, you have Funny People, which should have just been called People.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
I get it.
All right, Trevor, you take it.
I really don't have a whole lot to add with this movie. I mean, I enjoy it for what it is. It's by far not my favorite Judd Apatow movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There just isn't. Maybe it's because of the things that have come out since, but really not a whole lot kind of stands out to me about this movie. I don't know. I've seen it once or twice, and I don't really have that much of a desire to revisit it.
Yeah.
I remember there was an entire school year where our one friend Marissa watched it like almost every single week. Like she loves this movie with all her heart.
I mean that's fine. I don't have any resentment for it. It's just
No, I totally get what you're saying. I remember how part of this movie was it kept referencing Spider-Man 3, which was funny, but that's just because it was also Sony or whatever. But like, there's a scene where James Franco is being interviewed when she throws up, and then
that's right, yeah.
And then oh man, I almost forgot to mention him. Leslie Mann in this movie is so fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate her character so much, and like that's just. I'm sorry. That's not me like being like, oh, she's annoying because she's the nagging wife. Like, she's also just a shitty person, really. Mm-hmm. And the movie almost like tries to tilt it towards Paul Rudd being a buffoon or whatever. It's almost like if you laugh, you miss it. If you listen closely, Leslie Mann's character is fucking anti-vax, so automatically fuck her there.
Yikes.
And then she gets more mad at Paul Rudd. Like, she thought he was cheating, but then really he's just doing like fantasy baseball or whatever. And then she's almost more angry at him. And then she gets upset that he saw Spider-Man 3 without her. And it's just their whole relationship is so annoying. And then that's the one that they make a sequel with. They made a spin-off.
Yeah.
This is 40. Like, you literally made the sequel be about the most annoying characters. I'm sorry to take it away from you, Trevor, if that's what I did.
That's okay. I did not have much to add.
Okay. Yeah. No, but it's funny. I prefer the other movie this summer with Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll let you.
We might talk about it. Stay tuned.
Let's move on to our next movie, Transformers. What? This is the Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill movie, right?
got their hopes up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn into a bomb.
Oh shit.
Oh fuck! I got shot with a laser. Fuck.
I have never seen the first Transformers movie.
Next movie.
And I have no intention to either.
No, that's not fair.
That's not fair. You can't say that.
Well, I just did. The only Transformer movie that I've seen from beginning to end was Age of Extinction, and it was a fucking loud fucking headache.
There's your mistake.
I mean, I'll concede that point, but I still just don't have much incentive to watch Transformers just because I don't really fucking care about the Transformers.
That movie was so long I went extinct.
Exactly. Fucking Age of Extinction's 40 fucking minutes too long.
Yeah.
Right. And you can like clearly see where they would cut it. We're doing that again. We're talking about a movie that didn't come out in 07. You can tell which ones
You're blaking again.
You can tell which ones we don't like because we talk about other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But as far as the first Transformers movie goes, I've never seen it. I don't have much incentive to see it. I'm gonna bounce it to you, Trevor.
I like it in the series of Transformers movies because it honestly just stands on its own pretty well.
Yeah.
You can go back and kind of watch this one pretty easily.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, I think they kind of got worse as time went along, although Revenge of the Fallen is definitely the low point. I think it picked up a little bit of steam with Age of Extinction, and it just ruined it from there. But I don't know. I kind of I haven't watched it recently, but I look back on this one with like I had a lot of like excitement for it going into it. That was probably at the height of my interest in Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part, but just like Knocked Up, this is one I don't have a whole lot to add about.
Blake?
Well, that's a little surprising to me, Trevor, because one of my first memories of you in our group and, you know, my main memory of this movie is how excited you personally were for it. Like, this was like your most anticipated movie of the summer. Like, after, and especially like after Spider-Man 3 and after Pirates of the Caribbean 3, this was like the blockbuster that had to redeem the summer for us.
And I think a lot of the reason why I don't look at it that way as much anymore is just kind of to see how they squandered it over time.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I guess to do the anti-Michael Bay and Age of Extinction, I'm going to try to keep it shorter and sweeter here. The first Transformers, Donnie, first of all, I'm not going to shame you for it. I'm not going to guilt you for it, but I will simply just say, try to check it out one day. Or, I mean, I won't actively try to push it on you, but I will say I think this one is worth a watch. Maybe try to check it out one day. It's the best of the series. It is the only one that is the closest to being accused of being a decent film. It's also the one that is the best paced. I think like it, you know, it's beginning, middle, and end. Like it, you know, it's transitions. Like the second act starts when the second act should start. The final battle happens when you're really ready for the final battle, and it just finally ends when it's time to end. I think it doesn't overstay its welcome, especially not as much as literally the rest of the series. And I think it is a very good, for seeing it as a 16-year-old boy in the summer of 2007, it is perfect for what it is. It's a fun summer blockbuster popcorn flick. And it's the one that is probably like, it is funny, and the other ones like have a very weird sense of humor where like 2 and on, like there were a lot of jokes they did where I'm like, why is that a joke? And I mean, like, it's just, you get to see Bernie Mac in it, and I miss him. I miss Bernie Mac. He was the car dealer that gave him Bumblebee, and driver don't pick the car pick the driver, and then he yells over to his grandma, and she gives him the middle finger, and then he says, "If I had a rock, I'd bust your head, bitch." You got to look up that scene on YouTube.
Best quote in the movie.
Yeah, "Hey, mammy." But yeah, and then and this was what gave us semi-mature Shia LaBeouf doing his whoa, hey, like that he did in everything. And yeah, I mean, I remember the anticipation of this movie once again, like how excited Trevor was for it. And then they announced that Hugo Weaving was going to do the voice of Megatron. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then you actually see the movie and you can't even tell it's Hugo Weaving, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was like a big disappointment for me.
Yeah, like they make him all techno and shit, and it's like, why couldn't you just have like just a echoey Hugo Weaving voice? Like, why'd you have to synth wave him? But
I think you said simp wave.
Oh.
But it's like it just sounds like a recording of Hugo Weaving being held behind a fan. Like I don't know.
How did he get there? Can we save him? This was also the start of the era of us being told Megan Fox is the most attractive woman on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But then I will say, well, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll come out and say it. At the time, I was like, yeah, she was. I thought so.
She was, but like, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I will say though,
I'm gonna shut up now.
I will say though, just like with more so than with Dane Cook, and just like with Twilight, the haters became more annoying than the people who were into it. Like, I was annoyed by the fact how like soon after, not long after, it became cool to hate on her. Like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
I thought. And it's just like, don't get mad at her for being hired to play that character. Like, like,
that's fair.
But yeah, no, I know I promised to make this short and sweet, and I did not do that. But yeah, no, the first Transformers movie is the best one. It's the most fun. It has the best pacing. I would say it's the only one worth revisiting, and it is the only one worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next movie, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Now, in a previous episode, I had said that The Goblet of Fire was the worst movie. I have to rescind that statement and say that The Order of the Phoenix is the worst movie.
Oh, you bastard!
Especially when compared to the book. Order of the Phoenix is like top tier as far as the books go, but the movie just like skips over so much important shit in the book. Especially not just important in terms of that book, but important in terms of what it contributes to later books. And it just like the movie almost gives you whiplash, just how it skips over a lot of stuff. And it just doesn't really accomplish the tone and the themes of the book either at all, in my opinion. Blake, what do you got to say?
Well, joke's on you. I didn't read that one because I don't know how to read.
And there it is.
There it is.
I think as far as like my initial reactions to them theatrically, Order of the Phoenix was my second favorite movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was
and I don't think it's an awful movie at all. I just think as far as those movies, it is like the bottom.
It's in a way I still wish that I had seen The Goblet of Fire in theaters, so I could have, because I feel like my reaction to who keeps yawning when I'm talking, like what the fuck.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you could hear that. I'm sorry.
I like
who the fuck did that?
I legit got offended. Finally, that's happened like 5 fucking times in the last half hour.
Has it really?
Yes.
Oh my god, I apologize.
Who said that? You want to see my face?
All right, who fucking farted? Anyway, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
What just happened there?
I tried to fight off an aneurysm. Okay. What the fuck was I even saying? God damn it.
And that's why I yawned.
You were talking about how you wished you had seen Goblet of Fire in theaters.
Yeah, so I felt like I could have seen. I swear to fucking Christ, if you do it again.
I didn't.
I will drive to Nova right now and kick your ass. Okay, go ahead, Trevor. Fuck it.
Go for it. Go for it.
I honestly forgot. I need somebody else to talk for a couple minutes.
Okay. I'm kind of with Blake in that Order of the Phoenix. I knew it was coming. I knew it. Order of the Phoenix is probably my favorite of the Harry Potter movies.
Really?
And that may be because I didn't. Are you done? That may be because, yeah, I don't know how to read either. And I never actually got around to reading that one. So maybe it's because I don't know what I'm missing. But, I mean, for me, the absolute bottom will always be Half-Blood Prince in terms of the movies. And I don't think you can get much lower than that. But yeah, I loved Order of the Phoenix for a lot of different reasons. I'm a big Sirius Black fan. That's probably like the lead one.
Blake, are you pissing?
He had to one-up me. I am not currently.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But no, I feel like this movie's a lost cause at this point. We should just move on to the next one. I like Order of the Phoenix a lot. There you go. And I can't read. That's your.
All right.
Okay, so basically, you took my joke the whole series.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway,
Also Jackson in the chat he says the tension of whether or not Trevor will yawn is gripping. Jackson's 3 seconds away from becoming a mod.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Jackson, if you're listening in right now, can you confirm if you're like Trevor's friend Jackson? Because I'm in suspense over who you are. And then he starts posting like nudes of one of us, and then like it turns into like this unfriended dark web. Anyway, oh fuck it, god damn it, I still lost what I'm trying to say. Donnie, can you talk about it again for a second?
No, I'm just gonna move to the next movie.
No, I got it. I came back anyway.
Okay.
No, Order of the Phoenix was still my second favorite movie. I thought it was a fun time.
It's your second favorite movie?
It's my second favorite of the Harry Potter series. Fuck yourself.
That's weird, but okay. I mean, you can't read. That's your second favorite movie.
But I remember the theatrical poster for this saying "The Rebellion Begins," and then like Dumbledore's army and whatnot. And then after the Half-Blood Prince, Michael and I were walking out of the theater being like, "Well, the last movie said the rebellion begins, so in this movie, where's the fucking rebellion?" Like, and this was the first appearance of who's that one lady that's like everyone hates, that one teacher?
Dolores Umbridge.
Yes, the most punchable face in this movie.
Yeah.
But and then I love the I think the final battle in Order of the Phoenix is more exciting than the fight scene at the end of Goblet of Fire. Like
that is a great scene.
And I thought Sirius Black coming to the rescue was really fun. For a movie that, was longer than, some others at the time and was probably based on a very long book.
Longest book?
Yeah. My
the
only
longest
critique,
book ever?
My only critique was that it felt like the final fight in Order of the Phoenix, the movie, was a little too short.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt a little too brief and rushed. But yeah, okay. I need to move on with this so I can recover.
Okay. Well, to answer your question to Jackson, he says, I ate a shit ton of wings the morning of Trevor's wedding because I had nothing to eat all day.
Yep, there it is. It's him.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Verified.
Thank you, Jackson.
Next movie, The Simpsons movie. I fucking love this movie. I mean, I love The Simpsons in general. I remember when this movie got announced, it was a fucking dream come true for me. But I was also cautiously optimistic because adapting TV shows to the big screen is very hit and miss. So I didn't know how this was going to go. I saw this movie opening night with a couple of friends, and like the theater was fucking packed. I was surprised we got in. And the whole theater was just like busting out laughing throughout the entire movie. I mean, the movie definitely does the show justice. It has like so many of the things that made like the golden age of the show great. It's just a funny movie, and if you're a fan of The Simpsons, you're gonna love this movie. If you're not so much a fan of The Simpsons, it's still a decent movie to watch. I would like to see them get a second movie one day. Whether or not that'll happen, I don't know. I think it's more likely now that Disney owns them, but it's a great movie. It still holds up. I mean, probably my favorite joke in the whole movie is when the family is like inside that armored truck and Homer's trying to rescue them, and he puts a fake stop sign up to like trick them. But it's made out of cardboard and it's spelled all wrong. It's spelled SOP. And the guards just stop, and one of them's just like, there's something weird about that SOP sign. But I love this movie. Trevor, talk about the Simpsons movie.
I'm a huge fan of it as well. This was around the time I probably dropped off watching the series. As a kid.
I will say, as far as the show goes, like right after this movie, the show probably began like one of its lowest points.
Yeah. Like as a kid, I would watch several episodes of The Simpsons like every day.
Same.
And I have a lot of those episodes like burned into my memory at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But for not having watched the show for a while when this movie came out, I absolutely loved it too. I think my favorite bit is the commercial about the new Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks is like, I'm Tom Hanks, and please don't approach me in public.
Yeah.
But no, I loved it, and one thing a lot of people forget about is how absolutely insane the marketing campaign was for this movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like it at the time, I heard this the other day. Like at the time, it had one of the most. I don't know the word I'm looking for. It had like some of the most money invested into its marketing compared to any other blockbuster movie at that time.
Yeah.
Like they turned a bunch of 7-Elevens in the U.S. into full functioning Quickie Marts. I thought that was awesome. I wanted to like road trip to one.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I still occasionally like watch the Simpsons movie when I catch it on TV or something, but I think it made up for a lot of the seasons that kind of plateaued during that period.
Yeah. Like I remember seeing this movie, and then like the show began its new season like a couple months afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That the first season that came out right after the movie is, in my opinion, overall the worst season of the show. Like
Right.
I don't know if they were just creatively exhausted or what, but that first season after the movie is very bad. It doesn't have the worst episode in the entire series, but overall it is the worst season. And if you're curious, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioning how you'd like to see it have a sequel one day just reminds me of the episode of Futurama where they go to Comic-Con and
Yeah.
Bender asks Matt Groening, when are you guys going to make a Simpsons movie sequel? And
He
a
just
little
shoots
robot
him.
hand with a gun comes out and shoots Bender, yeah.
I mean, they've said before that if they ever make another movie, that's probably how they'll end the show. So, I mean, the day
Right.
they announce a sequel is going to be like a really bittersweet moment for me.
Right.
Didn't they say the same thing about South Park?
No.
Like if they ever make a second South Park movie, it will be designed or intended as the finale.
No, they've just said that like they just really have no intention of making a second movie at the time right now, just because so much time and energy went into the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought Matt Groening said they were going to stop after the season with the narrator.
Okay, just Donnie, go ahead and give the context on that, the backstory.
So that's an inside joke amongst us. One day, Trevor, Blake, and I were hanging out, and like we were talking about The Simpsons, and Blake says, "Isn't there like a season of The Simpsons where like every episode is narrated?" And Trevor and I just kind of looked at each other and just went, "No." And Blake,
no, that's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
well, I mean, how fucking long ago did this happen? That's the best I remember it.
I casually brought up being like, oh yeah, like isn't it crazy how there was that entire season that was narrated, and then for a couple minutes you guys just looked at me. You didn't disagree with me right away, but you let it sizzle because I kept talking about it. Go back to you, Donnie.
But basically, long story short, we were just like, no, that wasn't a thing. And Blake refused to believe us. Like, I do remember at first you thought we were fucking with you and trying to like tell you like, no, that didn't happen as like a joke. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no, that doesn't fucking exist. And you refused for so long to believe us. And like, it just became a running joke of how like we just constantly bring it up. Like, you know, hey, how about that season of The Simpsons where everything was narrated?
That lost season, that whole season they produced, and they were like, yeah, let's not air that one.
Yeah.
It was the same season that Ray Romano guest starred on, and it had the same narrator from Me, Myself, and Irene. And I know what I fucking
You're like,
heard.
you're so matter of fact about it.
There is one episode where that guy is narrating, and he only narrates like the very end.
He
and I don't even think it's the same season.
He was reoccurring. I turned it on one Sunday, and then I turned it on again 2 Sundays later, and he was still there. And like
then
you
Matt
guys,
Groening with his infinite money was like, let's just hide this season from all media just to fuck with one guy.
Yeah.
and I know what I heard. So yeah,
It
so
exists.
that's the backstory there. Is like I brought it up. I casually mentioned, the season of The Simpsons that is narrated.
Hashtag release the narrated season.
And
The Matt Groening's like has no idea what you're talking about on Twitter.
re-release it. Is he on Twitter?
I believe
Probably.
so, yeah.
Re-release the narrated season.
Yeah. Hold on.
Blake,
But anyway,
talk
what?
about the Simpsons movie.
oh yeah, it's a fun time. I like it a lot. I love the Disney joke in it. That aged both
Horribly.
bad and great. No,
Yeah.
it aged horribly and then it aged better in a way.
Yeah.
It was like a double-edged sword. But
Right.
yeah, the stop sign, great gag. Its plot is still kind of funny to me. It's just like that's what you wanted to be the plot of the Simpsons movie. You finally make a Simpsons movie and that's the plot of it. Like, it's just interesting. But I guess it was perfect for the time. How environmental awareness was becoming more and more a thing, and it was the summer after An Inconvenient Truth was released. And I remember the teaser trailer for the Simpsons movie was making fun of Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Because it was Homer on the couch in a
Yeah.
Superman shirt, or whatever. But no, it's a fun time, and it if nothing else, it made me want to, because I
Be
had
a
kind of written. I had kind of just go back to yawning at me. Anyway, it had kind of. I had written off The Simpsons at that time, been like, well, I'm over that show. Like, there's, I have no interest in watching it. And then the movie came out, and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to watch an episode or so of this every now and then. But apparently, I was better off to not have that feeling immediately, because apparently the season right after is pretty bad. What is bad about it exactly? What's so shortcoming of it?
I mean, the fact that I barely remember it says a lot. Just, it feels so flat. It feels like nothing really pops. No jokes really land or anything. Like, it just feels like it just is in the most pure sense of that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have to go back and really re-examine it, but I just remember when that season came out right after that movie, I was just like, this something's like not right here. Something is very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Okay.
did it did recover, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and move to our next movie, Hot Rod. I don't enjoy this movie. I straight face through the whole thing. It's Andy Samberg just kind of annoys me throughout the whole movie. It's one of those movies where it's like I just spend the entire time just going like, nobody acts like this. It's just this movie is a chore for me to watch. But Blake, I know you disagree, so I'm going to bounce it to you.
I absolutely love this movie. I think it's okay. I'm going to stop tweeting right now because I just can't do two things at once. I'm sorry. No.
At least you chose to stop that of the two. I'm ending the podcast right now. I need to go tweet.
No, I love this movie. It is one of my favorite bad movies, and it is kind of a bad movie. But then I just love the plot of this movie. Like, it's wholesome, but then it's like, wait, hold up, what? Because it's about a wannabe amateur stuntman who raises money for his stepdad's life-saving surgery just so he could then beat the shit out of him. like you just have to appreciate how, like, wait, I'm sorry, what the huh? That of a plot that is. And it's, I just love Andy Samberg in that era. And it was the first movie of The Lonely Island, I think. Well, originally I think it was supposed to be a Will Ferrell vehicle.
I could see
But then, like,
I don't think it would have been nearly as good.
No, he would have just screamed the whole time.
Yeah.
It has more of an underdog charm to it that it didn't have a bunch of A-listers in it. And it was one of the first times I saw Danny McBride in a movie, and Danny McBride's might be my favorite supporting character in this. Like the scene where he just beats the piss out of that guy, and it's like, I'm feeling pumped. I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day. Hell yeah, I go to church every Sunday. You're gonna bring the demons out of me? And this is my hat now. And one of the great reliefs in the relationship of my wife and I was that she loves this movie now, because she showed me her favorite movies, which was She's the Man, and then a few others that were kind of like corny movies that you just love when you're younger. And I was like, okay, well then I have to match her on this. I have to show her like a corny, cheesy comedy from my time in high school. And I was like, okay. So I showed her Hot Rod, and I thought she was gonna hate it or thought it was stupid, and she loves it now. And that's just kind of funny. You bring it up to her, she's like, that's an American classic. But yeah, I can gush over this movie for a while, but it's I'll give it to you now, Trevor.
I'm right there with you. It's one of the most like quotable favorite comedies of that era for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just tell that everyone that worked on it had fun working on it. The writers, the director, the cast.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it seemed like a fun project to work on all around. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, Blake, what you discussed, because this is my wife's favorite movie.
Really?
Before we even started dating. But I absolutely love it. A lot of what I love about it is the more subtle aspects, like things that happen in the background or just like weird little tangents.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the brother like is constantly watching dogs humping, and it's never quite explained. I think that's the funniest shit. You have that one part where they won't hang out with the one guy. I can't remember his name.
Henderson or whatever. It's
yeah,
like,
Henderson.
You can't join the group, Henderson. You don't do anything.
Yeah, and you just have the bit where he's throwing the flyers and like pelvic thrusting.
Well, it was the moment before that too, where he's like, "Come on, Henderson, get out of the pool. You're being a tool." And he's like, "There is no pool in this tool, or there is no tool in this pool."
But the part that had me in tears is right at the end, like right after he makes the jump, and it's like all, like everyone's happy, they made the money and everything, and just to top it all off, all of a sudden the radio host that's hosting the thing goes, "Oh my God, it's Ebenezer Scrooge!" Middle of fucking summer, and Ebenezer Scrooge is sitting in the school bus, and he just goes, "A cooked goose for everyone." And that had me in absolute tears. Just of all things, it's Ebenezer Scrooge!
And then just in that moment, Bill Hader's character finally realizes that Isla Fisher's character is not his sister. He's just like, oh wow, Rod just made out with his sister. It's like, no, she's not his sister. Oh, that totally shatters my universe right now.
And just that whole bit where Rod has to drive him to the hospital.
Oh yeah, it's like,
do you want to take this acid?
I'll take some of your acid, and then he just scoots away.
we almost ran over a small bus.
Hospital? Trash can.
But what I really didn't appreciate, so I got a little bit older, how fucking weird is it that Ian McShane is in this movie?
Yeah.
As the dad.
Yes, like he's supposed
like
to be
award-winning, never been in a comedy before that point.
And I'm pretty sure he's like a Shakespearean-trained actor.
Right.
And he's the stepdad in this like podunk comedy.
I do
Who
like
gets
the
shit beat out of him, and then he shits himself at the end.
I do like the one line he has where he just like fucking throws Andy Samberg on the ground. He's like, never sneak up on a man who's been in a chemical fire.
Yeah.
I have quoted that line at people before.
He's like, play the victim, and you will be the victim. It's like, all great men have mustaches. Yeah, but real men actually grow them. You know, I have a hormone disorder.
It's so great.
I would say the great moment, the great scene in this movie, and I'm trying not to drag it out. I really am, but is the musical.
I'm really trying.
The musical number, where they're all singing "You're the Voice" or whatever, and then there's just this random riot. It's like, oh wow, we started out with a lot of good energy, and then somebody had to ruin it. But yeah, no, it is the best $5 I have ever spent from Walmart. I got it out of the $5 bin, probably half a year after it was released in theaters. And
honestly,
and yeah.
just all like Lonely Island produced movies are just super underrated. Like I love Popstar.
Oh yeah.
And you never hear anyone talk about how funny that movie is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's great.
No, I will gladly trade, having a re-release of the narrated Simpson of the Seasons if you put
that's what they called it. They called it Simpson of the Seasons.
Yeah. Can you repeat that sentence, please?
What did I say?
He said, I hope they put out a re-release of the narrated season, or the Simpson of the Seasons. That's what they because it was narrated, they didn't give each episode a title. It was just the whole season was called A Season for All Simpsons.
Yeah. A Simpson for all seasons.
A Simpson for all seasons.
I think that's worse than when Brad said, "Have you ever watched Keeping Up with the Simmons?"
Yeah.
What?
Oh, we were going to Sci-Fi Valley Con, and Brad, we got on somebody mentioned Gene Simmons, and Brad was like, "Yeah, what was that show he had? Keeping Up with the Simmons."
Keeping Up with the Simmons.
Hey, Gene, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Anyway, I will trade the narrated season of The Simpsons for Hot Rod and Popstar to be put in the Criterion Collection.
Yep, it's coming.
Yes. They're not, put it on Blu-ray. Put Hot Rod on Blu-ray. Put it in the Criterion Collection. Put it on Turner Classic Movies.
All right, next movie. I fucking love this movie. Superbad. This is definitely like one of my top 10 favorite movies. This movie came out at like the perfect time for me. I was like the perfect age. This came out like my sophomore year of high school. Just so many quotable moments in this movie. So many like great characters played by like the perfect actors. I mean, of course, everybody loves McLovin, but if that is the only thing you got out of this movie was McLovin, you don't deserve this movie. I mean, I just love Jonah Hill and Michael Cera's like dynamic in this movie. I mean, we've all seen and been part of friendships like that in a lot of ways. Like probably like one of my favorite lines, and it's just so small and so subtle, is when they're picking up McLovin from work and he comes out wearing this vest, and they're like trying to talk about how they're going to get alcohol, and Jonah Hill's is like, "I'm going to go steal the alcohol," and he walks away, and Michael Cera's just like, "Man, take that vest off. You look like Aladdin."
Yeah.
But Blake, what do you got to say about Superbad?
Yeah, I'm with you. I adore it. It is the great high school comedy of our time in high school.
And I would say it's probably, well, Sex Drive came out shortly after this, but I would say like this is probably, if not the last, one of the last like great high school comedies.
I mean, it kind of sort of tried to come back in a metaphysical way with the 21 Jump Street reboot, which, you know, I hate to Blake on this one again and fast forward and talk about another movie, but that movie was just so genius. But anyway, moving back to Superbad. Yeah, I didn't do it too bad, Trevor. And why don't you fucking yawn again? Anyway,
I'm sorry.
No, Superbad, and I agree. Like, there's so much more to this movie than just McLovin.
Yeah.
And then also like, and that's why like. Michael pointed that out in the past. You know, people were it kind of got to a point where even Trevor at one point was like, yeah, it kind of became overrated eventually. And Michael was like, no, McLovin became overrated. A lot of the people that wouldn't shut up about McLovin don't even give a shit about the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the great irony there is, like, all those dudes that, like, thought McLovin was hilarious, it's like, if he was a real kid, you would have, like, threatened to kill him 12 times a day in school.
Yeah.
You know, but it's... No, I mean, you know, the mid 1985 had The Breakfast Club, and then there was Clueless, and then a few years after that, you know, it was American Pie, and then Mean Girls. Like, this was a high school movie for the time.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a great coming of age story. Even if, like, in hindsight, one could accuse it of being like, yeah, you know, Superbad isn't so harmless when you realize in retrospect that it's about two guys contemplating date rape, but then
I've heard that before, and I disagree with it, because they aren't so much saying, you know, if we get these girls super drunk, we can, like, sleep with them or convince them to sleep with us or whatever. They're saying, if we bring alcohol to the party, we will be the cool guys at the party for once, which will make them want to sleep with us, and they'll think we're cool and interesting. And then also, the whole point is that they realize by the end of the movie that, like, hey, our plan is, like, really shitty, and we're shitty people for trying to do this.
Yeah.
Guys, this plan is bad, like, super bad.
Oh my god.
On
my
that
god,
note,
they said the thing.
On that note, I will finally share with you, Donnie, my original prediction for what this movie even was that made Trevor roast me for an entire weekend.
Okay.
When I first saw the trailers, and then I saw the movie turned out completely different from what I thought it was going to be, because I thought the character who knocks out McLovin in the store was going to be like the main antagonist of the film, who's like, who's kind of like the neighborhood legend, and he is super bad.
He's going to get his own spin-off one year called The Neighborhoodie.
Yeah. But no, I thought he was like the legendary, you know, prankster and shoplifter, and he was super bad. So Trevor just roasted me all weekend for that one. But
God, you really overthought that half-second shot in the trailer, huh?
So a Simpson of the seasons. Okay, you go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of good memories of this movie. I feel like I've only ever seen it once or twice, but it definitely kind of still sticks around in my mind a lot. It's like the perfect coming of age movie, and I think for us especially, it kind of came out right at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
Not that, like, we were experiencing a lot of the things that happened in the movie, but right. I don't know. I found it pretty relatable, and, like, just the idea of growing up and kind of, like, becoming distant from your close friends, it really kind of stuck with me.
Right.
Yeah.
In that regard, I honestly think my favorite characters were the two cops. Out of anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just a big Bill Hader fan in general, but him and Seth Rogen play off each other really well. I love them.
So we got an African Jew wearing a hoodie. He looks like an M&M, right? Like this. This is an M&M. He looks like that.
I'm pretty sure this was like one of the very first things Emma Stone was in.
Yeah.
If not the first.
It was her breakout role for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, and she's kind of had a lot of staying power since, and I've liked her in a lot of stuff I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Like this was.
I mean, this was the breakout role for Emma Stone, for Jonah Hill, for Michael Cera.
Well, it's so weird to think too on Jonah Hill's part. Like, he was in like those Judd Apatow movies before this, like playing older characters. Yeah. And it's like somehow we reverted him back to a high schooler, and it just kind of works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's strange in that regard.
Well, just that same summer, he's one of the roommates with Seth Rogen in Knocked Up.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm even thinking back to like because he was in 40-Year-Old Virgin, wasn't he?
He wants to buy those goldfish high heels at in the store.
Yeah, the eBay store.
Yeah.
That's right.
But no, I mean, this was are probably. I mean, this was the first time I saw Emma Stone in anything, and we all just fell in love right away.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, just every high school had a. Oh, you motherfucker!
I'm sorry.
Every high school had a Fogel. Our high school had a Kogel. No, Zach, I love you. You were not Fogel. But anyway,
I'll be in to tuck you in just a few minutes.
Every high school had an Evan. Every high school had a Seth. Like, it's just. Whatever happened to the girl playing Jules? Like, or no. Emma Stone was Jules. What was Becca? That's who it was. Whatever happened to her?
I was just thinking about that when we started talking about it.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then Tiger came out of the cage, bro, and just like the creepiest dude. And then following summer, Seth Rogen told him off perfectly. Was, hey, how about you go to hell, you chimp fucking bastard? You kids got MySpace, but God, that was a dated joke.
Yeah.
Ooh, shit. I mean, I that felt dated leaving the movie theater. But no, it's just it's been 13 years. I just watched it a couple years ago. I think it's held up pretty well, all things considered.
All right, well then, next movie, Juno. Unfortunately, this is a movie I have not seen. I've been meaning to see it. It's been on my list for a while, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But I'm just gonna go ahead and bounce it to you, Blake.
Yeah, I remember Trevor and I saw this together in theaters. It was like there was literally nothing else to see at the time, and I'm not trying to be backhanded to the movie itself, but like it's just you wouldn't expect two high school buddies, two high school bros to go see Juno, in the theater. But especially at the time, I remember, I don't know who made fun of us for it. Somebody did. What?
Please listen to our new podcast, Two High School Bros See Juno.
where we review Juno every single week.
The first episode, we're going to talk about the first 4 minutes. It's going to be a 3-hour long episode.
Jeez, Banana, will you shut your freaking gob? No, that's literally the first line in the movie, Donnie.
Okay.
But I just drank my weight in Sunny D. Anyway.
Blake, I don't think you're selling them on it.
Okay, I'm sorry. But no, I recommend it, Donnie. You should see it. If you think Superbad is full of great quotes, so's Juno. Like it's good. You should watch it soon. But yeah, I mean, this was ever since I saw X-Men: The Last Stand, I wanted Shadowcat to be in something else because like I could just tell that I liked her. Mm-hmm. And then I was really happy that she had this, but then mainstream audiences were, reintroduced, I guess you can say, to Ellen Page, and we all fell in love with her too. And I think it was, I mean, people forget how acclaimed this movie was. Like, it was nominated for Best Picture. And I think it was, in a way, it was like Napoleon Dynamite's much more artistic and cerebral cousin. It's oh man, I'm fumbling over myself here. It's a very good movie. It's funny, it's smart, it's likable, it's charming. It's so quotable. No, I have nothing but nice things to say about it. I will say though, one of the misunderstood characters in the movie, or at least at the time for people our age, was Jennifer Garner's character. When you piece together, her situation that, she wants to adopt and stuff, it's very clear that like she can't have a child. She's unable to have children. And that kind of makes like, and my sister pointed this out, and this was a very good observation on my sister's part, it makes her introduction scene kind of heartbreaking in a way, because you see her tidying up her house and making everything all perfect and neat and straight, and one of our buddies, when we were watching this like the next year in class, because I guess there was nothing else to watch in speech and drama, he was like, wow, she seems like such a stuck-up bitch. And it's like, well, no, the whole point of this is that she has control over all these other things in her life, but not the one thing she wants the most. And that's very heartbreaking. No, she's great in this movie. Jason Bateman's great in this movie. J.K. Simmons, so Trevor, I give it to you.
Well, really, I think I don't think I've seen it the full way through since the time that two high school bros went and saw it in Frostburg. But no, one thing I really remember about this is this was like my first real exposure to like independent film, independent movies, and I mean that opened a whole gateway for me. It's like, whoa, lower budget films that are like a little harder to come across, but not the same general stuff that you see promoted constantly.
Exactly.
But I don't know, like I often forget how acclaimed this movie was at the time, and really it really did deserve it. I mean, I have nothing against the movie. I just really haven't revisited it lately, but I love the cast. I think a lot of the dialogue, especially with the main characters, is a little bit cringy these days, but I mean that's a factor of the time. You can't really do a whole lot about that.
It's very much a product of that year.
Right, a product of the time, not a factor of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of weird. You saw this and Knocked Up come out in the same year, but no, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and it was like when Disney bought Fox, everyone was like, "Oh, what's going to happen with the X-Men? What's going to happen?" My thing was like, I hope Disney doesn't like shut down Fox Searchlight, because they're like, "Oh, well, we don't have any interest in micro-budget independent films." Like, I was worried what was going to happen to them. And then as far as like how acclaimed it was a great joke by Jon Stewart. He narrated. God, I'm sorry. he hosted the Oscars that year, and the other nominees were very like doom and gloom almost, and very serious. And he's like, "Oh God, we need to lighten up." So thank God for teenage pregnancy. But no, that was a very good opening one-liner on his part. But now I understand your hype for this episode, Donnie. It was a very good year for movies, or at least a very eventful year for movies.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next movie, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh, Jesus.
Shit, I forgot this was on the list.
Is this the last one? Right.
No, we got one more after this.
Oh, gotcha.
But Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. If Grandma's Boy is the best Adam Sandler movie that doesn't have Adam Sandler in it, Walk Hard is the best Will Ferrell movie that doesn't have Will Ferrell in it.
Amen.
I mean, John C. Reilly is definitely the better half of that comedy duo. I mean, Walk Hard is just so fucking funny. Just from beginning to end.
And it's smart.
Yeah. You never once paid for drugs. Not even once. It's...
The Siamese cat is a symbol of nobility in ancient Egypt. Fuck nobility. Fuck ancient Egypt.
Every time he gets upset, he just like runs around and just starts ripping sinks out of the wall. The wrong kid died.
This was a very bad instance of someone being cut in half.
Yeah. Son, I never realized how easy it would be to accidentally cut yourself in half in a machete fight, but having done it myself, I get it now. Oh, man. It's just fucking funny from beginning to end. The scene near the end of the movie when like all these different kids are coming up to him and he's like got like a million fucking kids. He's like playing catch with them. It's just like a montage of him playing catch with each of his kids. One of them's Asian and he's just like, "Are you sure you're one of mine?" Oh. Blake, talk about Walk Hard.
Above all else, I mean, it perfectly deconstructed and maybe even for some destroyed the subgenre of the music biopic.
Yeah.
Like, it is, because every every movie of the like after that was like, oh man, Walk Hard did this, or yeah, Walk Hard did this better, and it wasn't even factual. It wasn't even a true story. Like,
Yeah.
it was one of those instances where, like, imagine a world where Spaceballs is better than any other Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I guess like the closest thing is some people even believe that, you know, Young Frankenstein is the best Frankenstein movie. It's you know, what's the Bohemian Rhapsody? Like, Bohemian Rhapsody. Did either of you see it?
No.
Oh, in
Bohemian Rhapsody? Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah, the Freddie Mercury biopic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I could have sworn you saw it, Donnie.
I meant to, but I missed it.
Yeah.
He blinked.
Yeah, he blinked. But no, it's just like, yeah, the parody surpassed the serious installments of that genre, and it's just so amazing in a way. But yeah, John C. Reilly is so funny in this. Pam from The Office, Jenna Fisher, I think, is that her name?
Yeah, she really wasn't in many movies. It was this and
Blades of
Glory, right?
Which that came out this year as well, which there's not really too much to say about that one.
Really? I could have sworn seen it like 10 years ago. I don't think it came out this year.
No, it came out in 2007, I promise you.
You didn't get my joke.
What?
It didn't come out. I don't think it came out in 2020.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Trevor, go ahead and talk about Walk Hard.
Edit that part out. Yeah, I still like I do pop this one in occasionally. It still sits proudly in my binder of movies. But I loved this movie at the time, which is weird because I've only ever seen like Walk the Line once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
But just all of the references it has to that movie, and just I don't know, it's like Hot Rod. There's so many like little things I love about it. Like
Yeah.
Dewey, you don't want no parts of this. It's crack cocaine. It gets you real high. You don't want it though.
Yeah. Well, that was the one where he's like, will it make me will it impair my sexual activity? It makes sex better. I kind of think I want some.
No.
I probably, you know what? I probably can't afford it. It's the cheapest shit you can buy.
What was the very last one he got him on? It was like ED pills or something.
I don't know, but then the final one was like, you know what? You're right. I really don't want no part of this shit.
I loved Jonah Hill as his younger brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a ghost.
Yeah.
This is what I would look like if I didn't die.
I would have been an astronaut by now. I would have been the fucking president.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's another movie where I just love like so many of the small bits. I like where he gets. I can't remember what exactly happened with him, but where he was on top of the fucking recording studio yelling he's Zeus, and he's fucking butt naked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I do try to revisit this one every few years. He's like, I got my smell back. I smell shit.
Well, just like the cameos, like Jack White as Elvis Presley, is just so like weird. It's like, does anybody else know what the fuck he's talking about?
It's a movie that should not have worked in any regard, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
We have to,
like,
though.
You would, on paper, you would think it's about the same level as like Epic Movie or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to, though, just like appreciate 3/4 of the casting for the Beatles. Like Paul Rudd as John Lennon, and then Justin Long as George Harrison, and Jason Schwartzman as Ringo Starr. Like those three are perfect, especially in a comedy. But then randomly, like Jack Black was Paul McCartney, and it's like Paul McCartney wasn't fat.
Again, it shouldn't work, and yet it does.
Yeah.
It does. It's so yeah.
But let's move. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It ruined the music biopic. I was just repeating the same fucking line I said 10 minutes ago.
Well, then let's move into our last movie, Disturbia. This, unfortunately, is another movie that has been on my list to watch, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So, bounce it to you, Trevor.
Oh my god. I don't know why, but in like recent years, I mix up this movie with the remake of Fright Night for some reason. I think because they have kind of similar plots.
They would make a great double feature.
Yeah, Fright Night, Disturbia, make it happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird to kind of see Shia LaBeouf in two movies in the same year.
Mhm.
I mean, he plays a pretty similar character in this, but I don't remember a whole lot about the plot of this movie other than the neighbor trying to like steal his mom or whatever was going on there. But Blake, I think you can agree. But the best part of the movie is the best friend.
Yes. Especially how he just randomly comes back in the final shot of the movie after
you literally think he's dead, and then in the final shot they bring him back.
I'm okay, guys.
I'm okay. I'm just slightly concussed. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to sleep now.
I remember I said that after the movie, and you and both Zachs just thought it was the funniest shit ever. Like, you guys couldn't calm down after I did that.
It was just so weird. It's like no one in the audience was like, "Yeah, but what about the best friend?"
I miss the days when you all thought I was that hilarious.
Yeah.
But, oh, fuck you.
Do you like how I said that? Yeah.
No, I'm a little bummed out that I can't say too much about it because, there's not much of a conversation for us to have now, but,
right.
I recommend it to you, Donnie. Check it out. It's a fun little movie. It is a entertaining little movie. I love it. I love it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Yeah, I mean, in some ways, Shia LaBeouf is literally just the same character he would be a few months later in Transformers. And it's basically like a millennial remake of Rear Window. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. I remember this was the movie we saw. We saw this on your birthday, Trevor. It was either between this or that not Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson movie, No Vacancy or whatever, which just looks so.
We made the right decision.
Yes, we did, because that looks so. Well, no, I mean, I guess in some ways both movies are forgotten, but it's like, yeah, can we see the Shia LaBeouf movie? That actually looks more fun. And it's funny because a lot of this movie isn't really like the thriller aspect of it. A lot of this movie is just him hanging out, getting into hijinks, which I'm completely fine with. Mm-hmm. I would have been very content if literally the whole movie was just a chronicle of him trying to stay entertained enough during his house arrest. But then it does the whole, oh no, his neighbor is a could be or could not be a serial killer. And that's literally on the poster of the movie is every killer lives next door to someone. And I'm like,
we talked shit about that so much.
Yeah. Every killer lives next door to someone. I'm like, yeah, I guess, unless you live in the middle of the woods, like the stereotype. But no, it's I have a special place in my heart for this movie. It's I thought it was very rewatchable. It's expertly paced. It doesn't have a dull segment. I recommend it.
All right. Well, on that note, we're done with movies. Let's move into TV. Going to just run through them here. TV that started and TV that ended just because we're running a little long here. I got 3 shows that started in 2007 on TV. Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job. I fucking hate this show. It is the worst fucking TV show I've ever watched, and it is part of the reason why I don't believe in God anymore.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Like everything I have seen of this
I gotta follow that up and go, I actually kind of liked it.
I mean, hey, that's all you, boo-boo. If you like it, you like it. Don't let me shit on your fun. I'm just saying everything I ever watched of it made me angry.
It's a very acquired taste.
I mean, that's completely fair. Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this was a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, and I know I totally don't seem like the type of person who would love this show. I just love watching this dude go to different parts of the world and just be like, hey, here's what they eat here. And the whole time I was just sitting on the couch being like, yeah, I'd try that.
It's the worst show I've ever seen, and it's why I don't believe in God anymore.
And then next show, another reason I don't believe in God, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. This was the fucking peak of the era of reality TV, and the peak and the low point. And I'm still so fucking amazed that this show is still on. It's finally fucking ending, thank fucking God, that I don't believe it.
Oh, you know, spin-offs will fill the void, though.
Yeah, and like it's
because she's preparing to be the first lady.
Just fuck that show, fuck that family, and fuck the people who fed it.
Yes.
And then I got one show that ended in
Fuck
TV.
the people who fed it.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's just a funny way to word it.
And I got one show that ended in 2007. Whose line is it anyway? This show is a favorite of mine, and it's a show along with Chappelle's Show and The Simpsons that's responsible for my sense of humor and my structure and timing as a comedian. It's a show I religiously followed, and I'm so glad they brought it back a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been revived since, right?
Yeah, it got revived in 2013, and the revival is really good too. I mean, nothing's gonna top the classic episodes though, where Robin Williams was one of the people performing, and then Richard Simmons was a guest star in another episode. Those are like classic fucking episodes that are never gonna be topped.
Especially Richard Simmons.
Oh my God,
Colin Mockery.
Oh my God, yeah, like Colin Mockery just exists to make everybody else on the show as uncomfortable as possible, and then when you throw Richard Simmons in there,
yeah,
it was so great. But what do you guys got to say about these shows, starting with Trevor?
Well, as I started saying, I actually really enjoy the Tim and Eric shows, especially Awesome Show. But it is really a required taste. You'll either like it or you'll hate it. A lot of people hate it. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. I just really enjoy that kind of niche, awkward humor. I've kind of followed Tim through things since. I really love On Cinema these days, which is his like fictional movie review show universe thing. It's weird, but no, I really enjoy Awesome Show for what it's worth. I wish they kind of would have kept it running for longer, but I like some of the other shows that have come out since then. I have really nothing to say about Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
What about Keeping Up with the Simmons?
What about Keeping Up with the Simmons? What about A Simpson for All Seasons? I mean, it's such a kind of tropey thing to say now, but even back then I was like, why are they're literally famous for being famous. It's like a paradox.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand like where the fame came from and why like we care what they're doing at all times.
She was basically an iOS update of Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Well, I think they were friends, and that's why it happened.
No, I don't know about that, but yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say on that one. What was the other show again?
Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern.
Bizarre Foods, that's right. This one I really didn't experience a whole lot until I started working at Discovery. But really since then, I've seen it off and on, and I never really followed it, but I definitely enjoy it. I remember one episode in particular it made me realize they like to eat guinea pigs in certain parts of the world more than chicken, probably. And it's like, all right, that's a little different, but I don't know. These days I try to find myself trying new things, so it's kind of cool to see a show where you can see more extreme cases of that. But yeah, I don't know. Blake?
Yeah, I almost have nothing to say about any of these shows.
All right, next movie. I mean,
what was the last show there that was mentioned, Donnie?
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, whose line is it anyway? Whose line? Shut up.
No, because I didn't say anything about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead then, Trevor.
Thank you. I was going to.
God damn.
No, I loved
Steal my
line.
fucking mozzarella sticks.
Maybe. Unless.
Yeah.
I loved Whose Line as a kid. That's all I got to say. I'm burning out here.
All right.
Anyway, I didn't watch too much of Whose Line Is It Anyway, but I remember, Donnie, you showed me the episode with Richard Simmons, and I asked a question. Speaking of why you don't believe in God anymore, I asked you a question. Like, finally, I was like, this Colin Mockery guy, why hasn't he? And I guess it just became more and more evident that he's one of those, you eat ice cream with sprinkles, not sprinkles with ice cream. But I was like, why hasn't this Colin Mockery guy been the main character in a big movie? And you turn to me and you literally say, in order to appreciate good, you must witness evil. and that is the first and main thing I think of with Whose Line Is It Anyway? In order to appreciate good, you must first witness evil.
It's great.
So yeah. And Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job. Oh my fucking God, you did it again.
I was prepping for what you were gonna say.
Okay, well, you know what? I was actually gonna come to your defense with this show, but fuck you. Anyway, there are a few gold nuggets in this show. I think, especially spaghetti and the infamous and immortal meme of "It's free real estate." I showed that to my mom, and that smirk he does at the very end of "It's free real estate," that you have to see my mom's reaction when I show her that skit, because that moment, that smirk, it tickles the shit out of her.
You were in tears the first time I showed you that loop of spaghetti.
Oh my God!
You were. I thought you were gonna die.
But yeah, so that's all I have to say. So yeah, go ahead and yawn at me again, motherfucker.
It's honestly been an accident a couple times now. Not all.
Only a couple times. Okay, yeah. Double fuck you.
Well, hold that yawn, because we're gonna move on to music. I only got 3 songs for music that stood out to me from 2007. First one, "Crank That" by Soulja Boy. The song stands out to me, and I'm sure it stands out to you for the same reason. Because
it stands out to who?
Both of you, because of a certain because of a certain talent show at our high school back in the day.
Yep.
Thanks for the Memories by Fall Out Boy. I heard this song so fucking much that chorus is burned into my memory forever. Yeah. And Love Song by...
Would you say you appreciate the
No, don't you do it.
Nostalgic feelings for the song?
No.
The Memories, even?
And the last one, yeah, even though they weren't so great. The last one, Love Song by Sarah Bareilles. This was another song that I heard so fucking much when it first came out. Those were the only songs that stood out to me back then, so I'm just going to go ahead and open the floor for discussion to you guys.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Go ahead, Blake.
Go ahead, Kogel.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, "Crank That" by Soulja Boy. Yeah, there is a certain fellow that we know who milked that thing dry.
Hey, cheerleaders.
Oh my God! I hope he doesn't hear this. First of all, I just love Kogel's recollection of that story of him doing the Black Eyed Peas song in his PowerPoint, and he had to keep restarting it. So the entire tech ed class, it was just, I got a feeling. I got a feeling.
Now hold on, it didn't come out right. I got a feeling
that tonight's gonna. I got a feeling. And just finally him watching the best of Tim Allen from Home Improvement, and just getting.
How did we go from Soulja Boy to the best of Tim Allen?
And just get a cheerleaders, isn't it funny? Oh, hey, I heard you were a wild one. Oh. Okay, I'm sure if anyone else is listening to us right now, they're like, what did they just talk about for the last 2 minutes? Thanks for the memories by Fall Out Boy. Like I said in a previous episode, in the last couple years, I've grown to kind of regret not getting into that genre more at the time, and I have a newfound appreciation for it. That album though, it's what album was that? But it was also This Ain't a Scene. It's an arms race, and what else? Trevor, you got to take it. Oh, Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston, and it was
or
just
not,
doing
whatever.
Okay, Trevor, take it.
No, I'm right there with you. Like I feel a little weird that I never really got into kind of the Fall Out Boy sort of. I don't know. I feel like I was kind of in my rap phase a little bit at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really? Wait, you were into rap at one time?
Regerts.
Oh.
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
It comes out. But I don't know. At that time I was obsessed with like things being mainstream, like avoiding mainstream music, and I considered that like kind of mainstream rock. But really, like over the years, Fall Out Boy has put out some really great stuff, and I wish I kind of would have followed them through that. And I know they aren't listening, but thank you for the fond, nostalgic feelings.
Of all the albums that came out after their return, their comeback or whatever, this previous one, Mania, was the best one of their newer albums, in my opinion. So.
All right, let's move on to our last topic of the evening, video games. I'm going to run through them again. God of War 2, which was an amazing fucking swan song for the PS2. BioShock came out, which is a series I never played. I've been meaning to, but I've never gotten around to it. But from what I've heard, it's great. The Simpsons game, which very underrated game, and it's the last Simpsons console game we've ever gotten. It's no hit and run, but it is a great game in its own right. Assassin's Creed came out in 2007, which kicked off a huge franchise. Assassin's Creed 1 it's decent, but it's very, very repetitive at a certain point. Rock Band, just when people were starting to get tired and over Guitar Hero, Rock Band came out and breathed a second life into that genre and did it better, in all honesty. Halo 3 kicked off the 360 with a bang. And Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I mentioned in a previous episode how the PSP didn't have its best games come out until like the final chunk of its life, and Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is proof of that. Like, in all honesty, a part of me almost wanted a remake of this game instead of the original Final Fantasy VII. It's such a good fucking game that I played for fucking hours. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce all this to you, Trevor.
Have you played all the way through the remake?
I haven't even started it.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I'll leave it at that.
But I mean to, because it looks pretty fucking dope.
Well, some of the things you were talking about. Play through it.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh.
But to focus on just a few of the games you just talked about, Rock Band. Oh my god, I never had so much fun playing multiplayer with other people compared to that game. I never got into Guitar Hero, I'll be honest. But I loved the drum set on Rock Band.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I remember before it came out, a bunch of us would play it on the kiosk in like Walmart.
Yeah.
We would go up to the mall.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. Like I never really felt at home playing guitar in Guitar Hero, but when that drum kit came out for Rock Band, I was like, I like music games now. And like all things, it fizzled after a while, but it'd be cool one day to kind of break that back out again and play a little bit of it. But
I always love how
it's no Donkey Konga.
Jesus, Pete.
I always love how anytime you and a group of friends got together to play a game of Rock Band, you always had the awkward side eye, like elephant in the room, like who's gonna sing?
Who's gonna sing?
Yeah.
And really, singing wasn't that bad in Rock Band. I would always take the drums over that, but
Yeah.
yeah, singing was one of the harder like things to do in that game.
Yeah.
What else? You mentioned Assassin's Creed. Really great memory of Assassin's Creed. I was so hyped for that game coming out. Like I was so excited for it. I had like I think I bought like a carrying case for my 360 that had Assassin's Creed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you know it, literally the fucking day I get it home, I get the red ring.
Oh.
Oh man.
And I had to send my Xbox 360 in, and it took 2 weeks to repair. So there I am sitting with my brand new open copy of Assassin's Creed, played for all of enough time to figure out the twist.
Mm.
And there I sat. But yeah, the first one in retrospect is very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of that is because we can compare it off how many other ones have come out since then.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird. It's a series I started being obsessed with, and since then they've like oversaturated it, and it's really like fizzled out any hype I have for those games.
Yeah.
But like this newest one, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a God of War ripoff. Okay. But I do have fond memories of that very first one. I thought it was a load of fun, and it was so awesome that none of the marketing really filled you in on what the game was really about. And when you first cranked it on, it's like, why am I playing as a guy in the modern day? This is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I hate that they never went anywhere else with that plot than they did. Like, they kind of stopped whatever they were going for with that in the third one, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it ended really abruptly, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened there, but I would have liked to see that fleshed out a bit more. Other games, BioShock is still a big favorite of mine that I try to pop in every once in a while. That really, I've never been into first-person shooters, honestly, but that was always a huge one for me. I liked the idea of all the kind of power-ups you could get, all the elemental abilities, the fact you could shoot fucking bees out of your wrist. Like, I always loved that game. And speaking of twists, it had, probably to this day, one of the craziest twists I've ever seen in a game. And it really makes you kind of, like, think back, and you're like, oh, shit, about your entire experience with the game. And I never played 2, but I loved Infinite, and I think it's a pretty solid trilogy all around. Halo 3, definitely the best Halo, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I never spent a whole lot of time with Halo. Like,
Yeah.
I was never an Xbox guy until, I got my 360, but even then, I wasn't like a big Halo head. I don't know. I bought the gamer fuel. Long story short. But I know we talked about this before we recorded, Donnie, but I have to bring up one game that's not on your list that's probably one of my favorite games of all time that came out in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Wii game, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
M-rated, even more surprisingly, but a little game called No More Heroes
Mm-hmm.
On the Wii. That is probably to this day one of my favorite games of all time. It's really strange. I don't know how it ended up on the Wii outside of the fact you use a sword in it, but it's so simple but so awesome at the same time. You're like just a nerdy dude who, for whatever reason, buys a lightsaber off eBay, and you decide to become a world-class assassin, and the whole game is essentially a bunch of boss rushes where you take down the top 10 assassins in the world, and each one has like a goofy gimmick. You have a weird Superman type character who shoots laser beams out of his dick. You have like a war vet that just throws a bunch of grenades at you. You have a Darth Vader ripoff at one point who pulls like a lightsaber out of his head. And it's just got such a batshit insane plot, and the action is so like fun and never gets old. It's really a classic for me. But everything that company put out, Grasshopper, I've loved ever since. But yeah, in short, that's all I got on games. Blake?
All right.
So this was definitely in the midst of the era where I didn't have any current consoles.
Next movie.
So, so my only and primary exposure to video games at the time was just the multiplayer aspect of it, like going over to a buddy's house. So as far as like single player games, RPGs, or even like the story campaigns of those multiplayers that I was doing, I didn't really, this was kind of after my time of like playing video games a lot. But Halo 3, yeah, I mean, Sandtrap was the place to be. You get me on Sandtrap with one of those like big big alien motorcycles or whatever, the choppers or whatever.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, I basically just pretended I was, on the Bat Pod from The Dark Knight. And actually, there was a great like YouTube mashup of that back in the day of like, the Dark Knight trailer audio with Halo 3. And it was like trying to do like a shot-for-shot recreation using gameplay, and how it's actually kind of fun. But yeah, no, I mean, Sandtrap and Halo 3, super fun. Yeah, Halo 3 is definitely the best Halo. And especially like Halo 4, by the time that came out, I mean, that was so much later. And then like, I remember nobody giving a shit about 5.
Yeah.
Like when 5 came out, there was like this giant yawn in unison almost, I felt like. That could just be my point of view. But, and then the Simpsons game, I just remember I was a little bummed out that it wasn't like in the same vein as Hit and Run.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard it had some good quips in it. I heard it had some good gags.
It has a lot of meta humor, and it's really good.
Right.
If
Like-
nothing, the cutscenes in it are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they are very well done.
Like
I'll
you
have
have a like Matt Groening is a boss fight, and it's great.
Yeah. I'll have to YouTube that sometime. And then Rock Band, that was just, I mean, really like my main thing of Rock Band was just the memory of when it was such a big deal that, there was going to be a Beatles edition of Rock Band a couple months after Michael Jackson passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, goddamn, you must have had that thing on lock. But yeah, what were some of the other? I mean, obviously, I don't have anything to say about No More Heroes. I watched you play it for like a day, Trevor. It looked fun from what I saw. And then God of War, I didn't really get to play that. Am I missing anything here though?
BioShock, Assassin's Creed, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII.
Crisis Core, I don't even know what that is. And then
I
Final
could talk
Fantasy-
about it all day, so I'm going to keep it at a minimum.
Oh. Yeah, BioShock. I just remember how in love with that Zach was. Like that was his jam. And yeah, it was I guess I quit video games too soon because it sounds like I missed out on basically what, a lot of my buddies were doing at the time when we weren't sitting in a movie theater.
Should have learned to read.
Yeah. So at some point, someone's going to be like, all right, you need to move on from wherever the fuck that inside joke is. But yeah, no, I yield my time. That's all I got to say about that.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we covered the year 2007 really well, gentlemen. Thank you for listening at home, and thank you to Jackson for hanging out in the chat all episode. Thank you to
What
Trevor.
a guy.
Right. Thank you to Trevor for joining us again tonight. You can follow Trevor on Twitter at Bumpus Columbus. Follow the Fat Minute on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Fat Minute Radio. You can find Blake at Puka Saucy, and you can find me at Don John Laughs. I got 2 shows coming up, one in Kaiser, West Virginia, and one in Hagerstown, Maryland next weekend. So definitely check those out. So on that note, everyone, be good and be safe.
Bye.
Good night.